Honey, are you dressed yet?
Dressed for what?
It's the stay-at-home gala tonight, remember?
All right. Yes, I'll get dressed right now. Tap dancing monkey.
What? No.
Professor Cowboy.
No. No. Yes, perfect. That looks great.
Shall we go?
Yeah, let's go.
Hello friends, this is Rwandan team. We welcome you to Wellspring Gala. We work with thousands of students and thousands of teachers and thousands of parents. And we do all this for quality education. So we thank you for your support. We can't do this work without you. And we thank you and we love you so much.
Welcome to Wellspring Stay at Home Gala. Turakumwe, we are together. As you've just seen, my teammates from across Canada and Rwanda are there greeting you. We are so excited. This has been such a team effort. We just want to welcome you here. We are so thankful that you could join us. Today is really about laying a foundation about what quality education is, about who Wellspring is, and getting you all up to speed on that. We want to answer some questions about why are we doing this? What is this all about? And I have some colleagues here. I have Andy and Shauna that are here to share some more. Andy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Jason. There's been a lot of work put into this. I'm just amazed at what the team has been able to pull off in about 4 weeks. It's crazy what we're going to be doing over the next 4 days, and just very excited.
It really, really is. I'm just going to jump over to Shauna. Shauna, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's a bit strange to have a gala day where I'm sitting at my kitchen table instead of running around the Western Bay Shore, but it's awesome. I'm looking forward to what's going on.
It really is different, isn't it? Yeah. And as you've mentioned, to put all of this together in not only one evening now, we're doing 4 days, just 4 really full days. And so I'm quite excited about where we're going to be taking people. Andy, there is a lot going on. I posted today on Facebook, just sharing with people to come and join. And I know I've talked with others about Wellspring and who we are, and still there is sometimes confusion. People think we do water and all that kind of stuff. So it would be great to give us an overview of who is Wellspring.
Sure. So Wellspring is an organization that's been around for 16 years. And we're very involved in making sure that kids get access to a quality Christian values-based education. Our main hub is in Rwanda, though we have a footprint in other countries in the region as well. In that country, we work directly with nearly 200,000 children in 134 primary schools. And many of those schools are double shifting, so you have school in the morning and school in the afternoon. So some of those schools have up to 2,500, 3,000 children in. We work with, I'll tell you exactly what it is actually. We work with just over 3,000 teachers, hundreds and hundreds of parents. We work in all the communities as well, because in Rwanda there's a real dropout problem for many children who are often put into work in farms or have all sorts of blockages to education. So we actually work in the communities as well, helping parents. We help provide feeding programs through our asset-based community development programs and all sorts of other things. So our job is to make sure that every child gets access to a quality education. And in fact, we are very engaged at the moment in making sure in Rwanda that the whole educational system gets changed. So we're not just working in those schools, we're working with the Ministry of Education and right across the country to see that everybody has access to a quality education. And we do that for the simple reason that, well, our mission statement says it. It says we will seek justice, worth, and dignity for all those we engage with, as we show the love of Christ by empowering new generations through the development of quality education in Africa. And we're seeing some real moves on that. Obviously, we're in a different situation that I'll talk about in a moment with the COVID crisis, but that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and I know that we'll be hearing a little bit later on from our teammates in Rwanda around COVID there. So, Shauna, I want to jump back to you for a second here. And obviously, there's a lot of stuff happening over the course of this week. Maybe you could give us a bit of a run through of what's happening over the next couple of days here.
Yeah, for sure. We've got a full few days planned. Both our teams here in Canada and in Rwanda have been working really hard to put together an awesome program for this Stay Home Gala. So what we're going to do is each day we're going to tackle a different theme or a question. And today, like you mentioned earlier, is going to be what quality education really is, what it looks like. Tomorrow, we're going to look at what it looks like to overcome the barriers to achieving quality education. On Friday, we're going to take a look at the impact of our work and the changes that are taking place in Rwandan schools and communities. And we're also going to hear some awesome stories from our Rwandan team, which will be really exciting. And then on Saturday, we're going to look at plans for the future. So what does the work of Wellspring look like in the future, as well as what's the future of quality education? So our Rwandan staff and Canadian team members are going to be guiding these discussions for us. They're going to be sharing their experiences with us. We've got new films that are coming in that are going to be premiering across the next couple of days. Luckily, our film team got out early this year and we're able to get back before everyone went into lockdown.
That is
and
really
we're also going to hear from,
right? Like, sorry, and I probably should have caveated that at the beginning. When we shot that video of our Rwandan team, they're all cheering and welcoming us. That was before all the COVID stuff had broken out. So just so you know, it's good that we could be there and capture those films. That's great.
Yeah, it was great. And they're looking great. So I'm excited for everyone to be able to see those and sharing those with us. And we are also going to hear from a bunch of our supporters from across the country as well. So there's a lot going on. We've got, even on Friday night, we have an entertainment night with musician Mike Jansen. So for that evening, you can, grab a coffee, grab a glass of wine and join us for some music, which will be really fun. So we've got a lot going on. We're looking forward to it.
Live concert on Friday night. That's awesome. Yeah. And so one of the things that we're doing, we opened it up, I guess on last weekend, we have our silent auction and our marketplace stuff going. So maybe you want to just give us an overview of that as well, Shauna.
Yeah, the silent auction is off and running. If you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, head over on our website and do that. So far, we've got over $8,000 of bids and purchases, which is really exciting for us. We've been really lucky to have so many wonderful companies and individuals providing items for you to bid on. So even during this time of crisis, we've had small companies come forward and say, we still want to donate, we still want to support the work of Wellspring. So we're so grateful to all of those people. And in our Rwandan marketplace, usually at the gala, there's a section, if you've been there, where we have all of these items from Rwanda that you can purchase to bring to your home to give as gifts. And our Rwandan teammate Joy was an absolute star, and she went shopping in Rwanda and collected all of these beautiful items for us. And so those are on the website available for you to purchase as well. So check it out. It's really fun. It's really easy to use. And if you have any questions, you can let us know at any time.
That's great.
Actually, Shauna, I know I've been looking through the gala, and I'm amazed at how many things you're able to bring in. I see all the things on here. We've got, what do we got? We've got a really luxury weekend in Whistler, another one in Tofino. We have golfing experiences. We have some wonderful pendants. But there's something I'm actually interested in, because I live out in the mountains. So I'm going to bid on something live to show people how easy it is. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
bid away.
I live way out down the valley in a really wild place called Ryder Lake, and not far from us is a place called Yale. And Yale was one of the first places that was kind of opened up by the Hudson's Bay Company when they came into Canada. So I am going to bid on a family seasons pass for the Yale Historic Site. I don't know much about the Yale Historic Site, but my wife does, because she used to be on the board of another fort. So I'm going to see how easy it is. So I'm taking my phone, and I scroll down there to that. I'm gonna press the number there. Let's see what happens. I've not bid on this before, so we'll see. I'm gonna enter my amount. Shauna, how much should I bid? What do you think? What should I bid?
Oh, just as much as you possibly can, Andy.
Okay. Well, minimum bid is 25. So I'm going to put in, just to get us rolling, I'm going to start 50. So I'm placing my bid. I'm putting in my phone number. It says put in my phone number. Not going to tell you what that is. Okay. I'm continuing, and I'm done. That's it. I now put my name in and all the rest of it. So it's as simple as that. It seems to be a very easy thing to do. Oh, I've got to put my credit card number in. I'm going to do that a bit later.
Awesome.
It really
Excellent.
is easy. If Andy can do it, anyone can do it. So.
Thank you for that. It is true. I don't actually have to put my credit card. I don't even have to put my credit card in. And so I just put my address in. It's that easy. I am apparently a technophobe, according to the rest of the team, but I don't believe I am. I just do it in my own way. But apparently, it's very simple.
Someone has just commented, it's Christy. Andy, you should just go for it. $400! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! So maybe Christy's going to start bidding on that as well, and so we have this little battle going on.
Hey, I'm ready to go for a
$500, Andy.
50. Try and beat me. Yeah. There's some really great stuff on there, Shauna. I'm looking at the stuff that's on there. Some of the things you've pulled off are amazing. I love the Tofino trip. That is something I am eyeing. And some beautiful vases and lovely pottery from Rwanda. But the one I love is the chess set.
Yes.
The chess set is amazing. Having seen that in real life, it's so stunning. So, yeah, really something.
I got one for Matthew the last time I was in Rwanda in October and brought that home from, so I wrapped that up for a Christmas present. They are just beautiful. So if you guys have a chance, you guys can hop over to our website, wellspring.ngo/stayhomegala. It should be scrolling across your screen now, and you can find out more. There's a green banner there. You just click on a button and you'll get taken away to the silent auction site where you can look at those items to bid on, as well as purchasing things from the marketplace. Andy, obviously we're not doing this just to all hop online and live stream, although it's been pretty fun exploring new technology and doing these kinds of things. And of course, you're up in Ryder Lake, which your internet is holding up really well. Actually, all of us are at home. And
surprisingly, yeah.
It's been good. And, we're all working remotely, including our Rwandan staff, which is just, a lot of them are not even used to that. There's a lot of things going on, but Andy, we do have a financial goal, right? We're missing out on doing our gala in person at the West. And so what are we shooting for?
Yeah, and I'm going to be talking about this a little more later on this morning when I really talk about what's happening, and I open myself up to question and answers from the team, but from everyone. But I just want to say a little bit more about what's happening in Rwanda and why we're doing this gala now. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, our purpose is quality Christian values-based education, working with 200,000 children directly and right across the country in working with the Ministry of Education there. It's a great work and it's an amazing work. And every time around this year, we run 5 or 6 fundraising events, of which the biggest one is our Vancouver Gala. And we always have a target and a goal. We have a wonderful donor, wonderful 2 donors that underwrite the cost of the gala. So we were able to take all of that money and apply it to our work in quality education. It goes to Rwanda. It means that our team can get into the communities. It means they can get into the schools, and they make a phenomenal difference. We're seeing dropout rates absolutely reduced. We're seeing kids having amazing experiences in school. We're seeing parents getting engaged. You'll see so much of that during this week. However, we all know that the world has hit a crisis now. And as Jason said, we're all now working from home. And so we can't run those events. Also, alongside that, Rwanda has been hit very bad by COVID, but not in the way that you would expect. So there are cases in Rwanda, and you can go on any of those websites that show you where the cases are. You'll see cases there. But the situation in Rwanda is slightly different in that they've done a fabulous job. I was there a few months ago, and I just as this was starting, they've done a fabulous job around the borders in keeping COVID out. Once it gets into the country, it's much harder because they don't have the medical facilities that we have. And so for that reason, they have really locked down the country. And I mean really locked it down, way more than the UK, way more than America, way more than here. A very strong lockdown for very good reasons.
That has meant our team are having to work from home, and it's meant our operations are shut down, but it's also meant this. And you'll see a little bit from one of our team in a moment about this. We work in a very fragile economic area, and it has meant total economic collapse. And because people had very limited access to resources and they live right on the edge of having enough food, they've now tipped over that edge. So we're getting reports of hunger in our area, which is growing by leaps and bounds. So we were approached by the Rwandan government to get very engaged in that. And so we're doing three things. First of all, we want to carry on with our mission. And so we have helped get education onto the airwaves. And so we've written, we'll say more about this later on, but we've written over 51 lessons already about that. My friend Emmanuel will tell you about that. Alongside that, we are working with the government to help feed those people. Our school programs are shut down where the feeding programs are. So we've already liberated nearly 16,000 kilograms of food. And so basically, why are we doing this gala? There's other things we're doing as well. I want to save the rest of what we're doing until the Q&A later this morning. Why are we doing this gala? Because we've actually lost around $500,000 from those fundraising events. And at the same time, we believe that our COVID response is going to cost, and it is a guess at the moment, but around $200,000. We think we can repurpose some of our funds, but that means we have a $500,000 deficit overall. So that's the $200,000 for COVID, the $500,000 we're not getting for these events, and we think we can take $200,000 from our general funds and apply it. Because our operations are shut down, we can repurpose it. That means a $500,000 gap, and so that's why we're here. And so what we've done this week is, we know we can't all raise that in 1 week unless you guys are amazing. But what we've done is we've said we would like to raise $250,000 over these 4 days. And here's some amazing news. We have had a group of very generous donors that have come forward and said, for the first $100,000 you match, we will double. So for every dollar that gets given during this gala, for the first 100,000, it will be doubled. So if we give 100,000 during this week, it becomes 200,000. That's amazing. So that puts us really close to our goal. So in other words, we need to raise $150,000 this week, and we believe we can do that. So that's our goal. All of that money is going to go to Rwanda. It has to, because of the hole that we have. So there'll be no little bits of administration. We've decided we will repurpose all of this money and focus it all on Rwanda. It will go to the needs to fight COVID, but it will also go to the surge in operations we're going to need to do when COVID is finished, so when those schools go back. And we'll talk more about that later. So that's our goal. 250,000, of which the first 100,000 is matched. So everything we raise is going to go towards that. And we started to see some people making donations already, which is wonderful. So that's it. That's why we're here.
That is amazing. Faithful partners walking with us through this time. And I know, there are some other partners, foundations, who have already also given some money to help us with some of the stuff that we've done around food security and that. So absolutely amazing. So if you would like to give, as Andy's mentioned, scrolling across the bottom of your screen right now, you can go to wellspring.ngo and give, and the first $100,000 given is going to be matched by some of our partners. Right now, the last I looked, and I haven't updated the numbers yet, I haven't got an updated set of numbers, but I think we're at about 5% of our goal. So just over about $10,000 has been raised, which is absolutely amazing. That's great. Andy, you obviously have worked in a number of different organizations. You've been at Wellspring now for, I believe, 8 years, right? 2012? When you started, and really, Wellspring is more than a job for so many of us that work at Wellspring, right? The last few weeks, meeting online every morning, connecting, and it's about, we're laughing together, we're crying together, we're talking about the things we're struggling with, being at home and that kind of stuff. Wellspring's so much more. It really is a family, and we talk about that a lot. And I know maybe some people just don't totally understand that, but Andy, you are quite passionate about what we're doing for a variety of reasons. Could you just give us a glimpse maybe at some of those things that really get you excited about what Wellspring is doing and who we are?
Yeah, I can, Jason. I'll do it in one of two ways. I have a picture I want to show you in a minute, but really what it comes down to is this. I believe that every child should have access to the same quality of education, no matter where they are in the world. And that's a big ask. There are There are 132 million kids that aren't in school at the moment in the world, and that's growing all the time. You know, in Rwanda, with an education system that is not quite the same as we have here, kids stay in school an average of 6 years, but their real learning time is about 3 because of the nature of the schools. We're working to change that. Now, why is that? Why shouldn't kids be in school for 12 years like they are here? Why don't they get access to the situation? Just because they're born in a different part of the world, they should have access to the same opportunities that we do. And I firmly believe that we can do that. There is no reason whatsoever why it shouldn't. If someone can tell me a reason why a Rwandan child should have less of an education than a Vancouver child, I'd like, we're all human beings, all made in the image of God, all created to be shown the same worth, dignity, and justice that Jesus shows us. I have a picture here I want to show you. It was taken in 2010 when I was in Rwanda by my friend Charlotte Browning. It wasn't taken on a Wellspring trip. It was taken on a trip for another educational, for Youth for Christ with another school there. But it was taken in the area that Wellspring works with. And this was a picture of a lady. I don't know if you can see it there. Can you see that, Jason? Can you see that okay?
We can see it. Your feed is not totally ideal, but yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to see that.
There you go. Good. So this is a picture of a lady, a grandmother, who was sitting at the entrance to a village where we were going to work. And she reached out. There was about 25 of us. She reached out. And she took every single one of our hands and she shook them and held them and thanked us for what we were doing in that village. And all around her, all around that village were kids. And those kids should have been in school. They weren't. They were running around. I keep this picture in my living room and I look at it every day. It actually sits right next to the chair where I meet with God every morning. And this picture just reminds me of the people of Rwanda. This is a woman that wanted the best for her community. That's why she stood there. We weren't working for her, we were working in the community, but she wanted the best for her community. And so she reached out and she shook every one of our hands, including some young kids, some 16, 17-year-olds that were on that trip, who were profoundly moved to meet her. This woman represents Rwanda to me. She's a woman of great dignity. In some ways, it looks like she's making an ask there, can you give me something? But actually, she's not. She's saying, let me give you something. And that represents Rwanda to me. I've been privileged to be part of that country's life for nearly 15 years now, in both the jobs I've been in. And this woman, as she reaches out and reached out to my hands and shook my hands and gave me the gift of dignity, of justice and worth as I walked in there, made me feel like I counted. We should be doing that for the people of Rwanda as well, for her grandchildren, for her children, for her community. And that's why Wellspring exists, and that's why I'm passionate about what we do, and that's why every cent we raise this week is going to go to the kids who are represented by that woman. And she's actually in one of the communities that Wellspring works in, actually. So the kids that were in that village would be kids who went through a school that Wellspring works in or are going through it now. So I just wanted to say that. We are going to have a lot of fun this week. Some fun things, as you saw in that intro with Lisa and Quentin. We've got some very moving things. We have 2 quick interviews that are going to be coming up shortly. You'll hear from Rwanda, you'll hear from donors. Why? Because kids count, no matter who they are and no matter where they are. We have to do the best we can. And in a time of crisis, when they're going hungry, we have to do even more. So that's why.
Thank you, Andy. I think that, sums that up really, really well. We are just about to take a short break to grab some coffee. We have another video that we're going to share. I'm going to bring everybody back.
Yeah, later today, I think. But could I add one thing before we sign off? Just there's so many ways for everyone to participate this week. And if you saw the email that went out this morning, we made a note that we really don't want this these days just to be us talking to our computers. We want to hear from you. So one of the favorite things about the gala that we love is we get people around a table, we share a meal, we speak with each other, we talk about education, we connect. And so we want this to be a time for that as well. So let's treat these forums as a time for conversation. Ask questions, send over comments during the Q&A, send us an email, chat on our social feeds, whatever you want. Reach out to us because we'd love to hear from you as well.
And sorry, I am hearing from people. There are a ton of comments coming in, and some of them is just flagged that I had myself muted as I said that wonderful, eloquent thing. So I mentioned this to Andy the other day. It's kind of like Forrest Gump when he's at the reflection pool in Washington and he goes to tell people what Vietnam's about, and then he goes blank and no one hears exactly what he says. But essentially, I was just thanking Shauna for the tremendous amount of work that has gone in the last 4 weeks, even more as we've planned for this. It's really been something completely different. It's been our whole Wellspring team in Rwanda, our North American team. It's been really cool. I really think it's just knitting us together. That idea of family, we're working together to accomplish one goal. And so you're going to hear a bunch of clips and videos from our team in Canada as well as Rwanda coming up soon. So yeah, just absolutely amazing. Thank you both for hopping on the call this morning. I know, Andy, you're back. You are back shortly. And Sean, I think you're back a little bit later on. You mentioned that earlier, and people could probably hear you. They just couldn't hear me at that point. So Andy, you have been outbid on the Yale thing by Chris Wignall way the heck on the other side of the country. So maybe he's planning, another trip out, another RV trip out here. So yeah, there is, we have a lot of interaction happening on the comments and the chat. So if you guys are around, as Shauna said, we don't want to be talking heads here. Really, it's a conversation, and there is a lot going on more than just the live stream. So check out our social channels as well. Thank you guys both so much. I'm going to say bye to you, and we are going to hop into a video here from a couple of dear friends. So thank you guys so much. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Jason.
Bye, guys. All right. So before we take this short break to jump across to have a coffee, we have just one more video to share. And these are a couple of really dear people to us. Jerry and Shirley, I met them on my first trip to Rwanda back in 2009. And they had traveled out with another family from Vernon. They had helped put together a container to help us when we were still doing some building at the Wellspring Academy. And so this week, we are going to be hearing from a wide range of voices of people who are connected to Wellspring, some that have been, like Jerry and Shirley, around for a long time, even before Wellspring started, to some that are just really, really new. Like we're going to hear from someone who's just signed up to be a school partner and is going to walk with us on that journey. So what we thought, there was no better way to start this journey of hearing from different partners than Jerry and Shirley, who have been with us from pretty much the very beginning. So here is Jerry and Shirley.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Quentin Fincarrick, and today I am joined by Jerry and Shirley Malmus. And as many of you know, they are longtime supporters of Wellspring, and they are just lovely people. So Jerry, Shirley, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about how and why you got involved with Wellspring.
Yeah, okay, so I'll start. We got involved with Wellspring kind of before actually Wellspring was born, or it wasn't even an idea. There was a young man that was in our dorm when we were in Kenya at Rift Valley Academy. His name was Jeff Comont. And so we got to know him really well, and kind of kept track of him as he came back here to university in Canada. And then as he was finishing up here, he said, "Hey, Jerry and Shirley, I've got something that I'd like you to look at." And so he came back with this plan on the back of a napkin at Earl's Restaurant. And so it started. So we got involved, starting with a really good relationship. It was just a long-term relationship we had developed, and we got started that way. Education has been a priority for us. We really do believe that without education, it's really difficult to provide for yourself, to make a way forward. And so, yeah, that's the how and the why from my perspective. Anyway, should you want to add something to that, or you?
No, I think that's pretty much it. And that was, when was that, 2004?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So 16 years now we've been involved with Wellspring.
Yeah.
And what's something that appeals to you guys, or what is something you appreciate about Wellspring that you'd like to share?
I think for me, what comes to mind is their, from the very early days when Wellspring started feeding lunch to their staff, to their workers, to the guys that were out, breaking up rocks to build the foundations for the buildings. I think it was evident that caring is really central to Wellspring's DNA. And as over the years, as that's grown, it's a community that I think everybody feels it when you're involved with it. It feels like you're part of a family, and that practical kind of outworking of that is the approach that they use when they interact with the people that they work with in the education sector. I think the ABCD, the asset-based community development approach that they use is, it's not just telling people, identifying issues and telling people what they need. It's coming alongside people and helping those in the education sector, specifically whom they work with, identify what their goals are and what resources they might have to fulfill those goals, and then come up with a plan to be able to actually achieve those goals. And that's very affirming for people because they then do it themselves. They're involved in the planning. Yes, they have people coming alongside them, but in essence, they're doing it they're accomplishing something. And I think that is the proper approach to have when we're guests in someone's country. And the teacher trainers are fantastic at what they do. They, I think first and foremost, they love God and they love each other, and they care about the success of their colleagues, but they also care deeply about the success of the communities that they work with and all the stakeholders in that community, right from the principal of the school to down to the children, and so that whole community, and it's not just the school that benefits, it is the whole community. And I think it helps change the whole thinking of the community once they realize and set goals in their educational setting. It helps them set goals in their own personal lives and in their community lives aside from the school as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I kind of have seen over the 13 times that I've been to Rwanda was the changes in the confidence and the good heartedness, the expansion of the hearts of the trainers. I mean, the first time we saw them, they were so tentative, so not knowing what's going on. And then the last time we went last year, or no, 2 years ago, was just amazing. They were so confident, so full of energy and vibrant. And you could just see it as they interacted with administrators and parents, that that energy just shifted. And I can always remember this principal there, and he just got excited as he watched the trainers talking, and he got more and more excited, and he became so animated, and you can see, yeah, we impact, thousands upon thousands of children, but it's those core group of trainers and administrators in Rwanda that go out and teach and train and build into those teachers and administrators and parents that impact those thousands and thousands of children. And so, yeah, for me, that's every time I go, I come home and I just marvel at what God is doing and what He's been able to allow us to partner with. I mean, wow, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a real privilege.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for sharing. It's so heartwarming to hear your guys' experiences, your testimony. Thank you for joining us today, and God bless you both.
Yeah.
Me too.
So that it was Quentin Fincarrick sitting down with Jerry and Shirley just a few days ago, just to record that conversation there. And what a powerful story. Jerry and Shirley mentioned there about the trainers that have been around for a while, and they have a lot of them are over a decade with Wellspring, and I think that says something about who they are and about who Wellspring is. And so we are just about ready to head into a break here. And so I just want to thank you for joining us for this introduction to the gala. Great to hear from Andy. Great to hear from Shauna. As Andy had mentioned, our goal over the next 4 days, we are hoping to raise $250,000 for our work in Rwanda. And some faithful partners have offered a $100,000 match. So that means any donations made up to $100,000, that first $100,000 of donations is going to be matched by partners of Wellspring. So there is a link on the bottom of your screen. You can give at wellspring.ngo/give. And if you want to find out any more about the gala and what's going on, the schedule for the day is also up on our website as well. So if you were to go to wellspring.ngo, you could click through to figure out what's happening there. So we have still a bit more for today. We've got a couple more sessions, and we're going to be hearing some from some of our Rwandan team members about how Wellspring is responding to the COVID-19 crisis. And you'll also have the opportunity to ask some questions for Andy, who will be joining us again. So be sure to get some of those into the comments. We have a team, our communications team is monitoring that feed, and we'll be keeping track of those comments. So go ahead and ask them in the chat there on the live stream. And we're going to be back at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time. So we will see you then. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome back to Wellspring Stay Home Gala. And today, at this point, we're moving into the first of our daily talk times. As many of you are aware, this week's events are happening during a time of global crisis. And so we're going to take a look here to see what does that actually look like in Rwanda and how is Wellspring responding. Now, we've just taken a short break, roughly about 20 minutes. And at that moment, during that break, I just got a financial update. It looks like we're actually up to about 12% of our fundraising target. So we're around the $29,000 to $30,000 mark at this point, and that is just amazing. We are so thankful for your partnership. As Andy had mentioned in our first segment, we are hoping to raise $250,000 over the course of the Stay Home Gala. So that's today through to Saturday. We have an extensive schedule with a ton of content, a lot of social media stuff going on as well. And as part of that $250,000 that we are trying to raise, we have some faithful partners who have offered to match up to $100,000. So that means that your gift, there's another about $70,000 available to be matched. That means your gift, dollar for dollar, is matched by a generous partner. And so I would encourage you, if you are feeling moved by Wellspring and the work that we are doing, to visit wellspring.ngo/give to contribute to our work in Rwanda. So as I mentioned earlier, I want to take a look now. I want to hear from our Rwandan teammates about what's actually going on the ground in Rwanda right now in response to what's happening with COVID-19. And so I am delighted right now to hand over to our Rwanda country director, Libby Karango-Miles, who is going to update us on how things are going in Rwanda.
Hello from Rwanda. My name is Libby Karango-Miles. I am the country director for the Wellspring Foundation for Education here in Rwanda. I'd like to give you a little bit of an update as to how we're getting on here, how the team are doing, and what we've been busy doing over the past few weeks. Well, the country has been in a lockdown in response to the coronavirus here in Rwanda. So the first thing that we did really, after of course making sure our team are safe and able to work from home, something which is quite new for many of them, is to reach out to our partners. We got on the phone to all of the leaders, school leaders, teachers, parent representatives, sector and district leaders who we work with, just to show them that we were still here, that we were ready to support, and to listen to them, to hear from them as to the challenges they've been facing. And that was really important to help us to inform our plans going forward. The Ministry of Education has a plan in place called Keeping the Doors Open for Learning. This is a plan to allow children to continue learning despite the fact that their schools have been closed since the 16th of March. Our team have been really busy writing radio lesson scripts to contribute to this effort, as well as contributing to national efforts to keep learning going through radio lessons. Our team have been busy preparing some sort of key messages and tips for parents to encourage them and to guide them as they respond to this situation where their kids are at home and the kids need to be learning, and it's quite a stressful time for everybody. So we're really excited to be able to get those messages out soon to our parents to support them in their role. Another practical way that we are now starting to help is the provision of our drivers and our vehicles. Today, in fact, 3 of our drivers and vehicles in Kigali will be joining the efforts of the Ministry of Health with the logistics involved in tracing and treating cases of COVID-19 across the country. Our drivers are delighted to be able to serve this national effort, and we're really pleased to be able to support in this way. Obviously, it's an evolving situation. We want to remain flexible, to remain compassionate, and to remain focused on the most vulnerable as we continue to respond in a relevant way, we hope, over the coming weeks and months. So please stick with us. Please continue to support us as we do our best to support the families, the children who are part of the schools that we are committed to serving here in Rwanda. Thanks for listening and enjoy the rest of the week.
So great to hear from Libby, our country director in Rwanda. There are a couple of comments coming in there. One from Louise just mentioning about the amazing job that the leadership, our Rwandan leadership specifically, are doing. Libby's recorded that for us the other night at home. She has 2 young boys. She's trying to run Wellspring on the ground there in Rwanda and send us videos. It's just been amazing what our Rwandan team has put together for us to share with you over the course of this week. Shortly, you are going to have an opportunity to ask Andy questions about our current operations in Rwanda. And during this time, children are particularly vulnerable. But before Andy joins us, we've also invited a couple other Rwandan colleagues, Amina and Emmanuel, to share about a couple specific projects around those radio lessons that Libby had mentioned in her video there. Emmanuel is going to talk to us about that. And then Amina is going to talk to us about the food security stuff. So I'm going to pull up Amina right now.
Greetings from the Wellspring Rwanda family. My name is Amina Bisamaza. I serve as the Director of Operations. I want to give you just a quick update of how the situation for many look like in Rwanda. As some of you may know, the official lockdown in Rwanda started on 21st of March. That means big businesses, small traders, anything has to close except essential services. That's bank, hospitals, clinics. It was not easy, mainly because a big percentage of the population, especially in the 2 districts that the Wellspring intervened in, the population depends on daily wage. Imagine, as a father or a mother, a breadwinner, depending on a daily wage, and one day you find yourself stay safe in-house. Of course, there is that good reason. Week 1, people survived. But week 2, already there are so many cases of lack of food and other basic necessities. But the most urgent is food. The community tried to intervene. You know, that solidarity of sharing what you have. If you have 5 kilos of rice, 2 kilos of sugar, you share with your neighbor who doesn't have any. But of course, that cannot have any sustainability. The churches tried to intervene. Of course, they had their limits. As of now, many families really need food. Now, looking at where we are working, that's in Gasabo and in Rubavu, the situation is the same, but at least Gasabo, because it's where the central government is, we hope some international organizations are working on their intervention. Looking at how the situation is, food security is really super urgent. Now, the Wellspring Foundation looked at the situation and felt like we also should do something so that our partners, those parents who work with, the district people, will not feel like we ran away. A week ago, our our CEO Andy immediately approved $10,000 as an intervention for the food security in Rubavu district. Why Rubavu district? After talking to our staff in Rubavu and the district leadership, we found out there is a gap in terms of support. No international organization, no NGO has intervened. Few local NGOs were intervening within their communities. Again, they reached their limit. So when you receive this approval of 10,000 US dollars, as in any emergency situation, we had to act quickly. Immediately on Monday last week, we started a procurement process to ensure at least we follow the processes, and we got good suppliers. We had to reach out to other organizations that have experience in food security. That's Food for the Hungry, the World Food Program, the World Vision. They're very resourceful in terms of sharing their different suppliers in Kigali and in Rubavu. Our procurement processes went so quickly, following up all the steps that have to follow. Of course, we have to ensure there is compliance in every state. And in brief, I'm so happy to inform you that on Friday, the Wellspring were able to deliver food, 10,000 kilos of maize flour and 5,700 kilos for beans to Rubavu district. They were so happy. This food, after discussing the district officials, they'll be distributed to 1,000 families. And on average, we think it will last for 2 weeks. The money you contributed, your donations, impact the lives of the people. 1,000 families, 1,000 families are going to be fed for 2 weeks. Thank you very much. Personally, from the bottom of my heart, and in general, from the communities out there, you impacted them. They will eat for 2 weeks. That's really showing the love of Jesus Christ. May God bless you. May God multiply all the sources of your income. Thank you.
Hello, I greet you. My name is Emmanuel Sibumana. I'm the Director of Policy and Programs at the Wellspring Foundation for Education, and I would like to speak to you about how Wellspring is supporting a radio lesson program as part of the Ministry of Education's program to support learning during this lockdown due to COVID-19. The Ministry of Education has introduced this program to make sure that learning does not stop, and this program uses different mediums, including online platforms, television lessons, and radio lessons. Wellspring has also stepped in by supporting radio lessons, and our teacher trainers are now busy writing lesson scripts, and we are hoping this to be used as part of the program. You may wonder why, as Wellspring, we decided to support radio lessons instead of maybe TV lessons or online platforms. Now, as Wellspring, we aim to be a catalyst for transforming education for all children, And so by looking at the different mediums that are used by this program, we have realized radio reaches the highest number of children, including those in remote rural areas who we think need transformation the most, and whose almost only hope for transformation and social mobility is quality education. So why does radio reach that high number of children? It is because it is the most affordable medium of communication for many households. Data show us that more than 80% of the Rwandan households can access this medium of communication, and therefore it is the most common source of information for many Rwandans. And so by using it, we hope we'll be reaching more children, and we can actually argue that by doing that, even children from the most disadvantaged background can have access to quality education, because we believe that our lessons, which are being prepared by very experienced teacher trainers, will make a difference in this program. So what have we achieved so far in relation to lesson script production? We have committed to writing lesson scripts for 3 school subjects. The first one is social and religious studies for grades 1 to grade 6. And we have written 31 scripts so far. And the second one is mathematics for grades 4 to 6, where we have produced 7 scripts. And the third one is Kinyarwanda. This is our local language. And we are doing this for grades 4 to grade 6. And we have produced 13 lesson scripts so far. So in total, we have 51 lesson scripts ready, and some of these are being reviewed by the Rwanda Education Board, and they will soon be broadcast. So we thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you, without your support. So you are very, very valuable to us. You are very important people for us. Thank you so much.
So those are some of the key ways in which we are responding in Rwanda. It is so great to be able to hear from our team there. I'm so thankful that we were able to put those videos together for us. It's great to hear from those on the ground in it right now about what's actually happening. So now we want to give you the opportunity to engage and ask some questions. So I'm going to welcome Andy Harrington back to the call, and he's going to share just a little bit more. So Andy, I'm not, sorry, I don't have you. I'm going to unmute you there, and I'm going to put you on the screen here. Andy, I'm not sure if there's anything that you would like to add to what Libby or Amina or Emmanuel have said in those updates, but I guess I'll just pass it over to you.
Sure. So I want to kind of underline a couple of things. There's a few things I would want to add. Obviously, for Wellspring, it's been a really interesting time in that we are very laser focused on education. So education for us is everything. It's our reason for existence. And so our team had been out there. They've been doing this incredible work in 134 schools with nearly 200,000 children, also working at the governmental level. And then along comes COVID. And as I explained, for anyone who's just joining in, I'll say it again. The country's in lockdown, as you've just heard from our friends there. And has also moved into economic crisis in the rural areas in particular. Not every place in Rwanda, but in certain areas, there's real food security issues. So suddenly we find ourselves thrust into this. Now it's interesting in that I want to read our mission statement to you because it says something that really is very important to us in this COVID time. It says this, to be a catalyst, this is our vision statement, to be a catalyst for transforming education in Rwanda and to foster vibrant communities that address poverty in all its forms. And poverty for us has many forms. It could be a spiritual poverty, it could be a material poverty, it could be a relational poverty. In fact, we believe that a lot of the broken relationships in the world, a lot of the things that don't work are because Well, poverty comes because of broken relationships. So we believe that a lot of the things that cause that come out of our broken relationships with each other, with economic systems and everything else. So one of the ways we've been addressing that is education, and we'll continue to do that. But suddenly along comes COVID, and we find hundreds of thousands of people going hungry because, especially in the area we work in, Rubavu, which is right on the border of the DRC, it sells a lot of its, a lot of people there grow food in their garden, they put it in baskets, they carry it on their head over the border into the DRC, where there's this huge city, Goma, over 2 million people, and they're kind of the breadbasket for it. That border's closed now. And so people just have no economic resilience, and suddenly their livelihood's taken away, and they get hungry really fast. And so if we're going to have a vision statement that says we have to address poverty in all its forms, right now, what that means is what Amina was talking about. We've got to take money and we've got to apply it so that people can eat. And so we took, it was actually the equivalent of 15,000 Canadian as a test run this week to see if the system worked. And it did work. 1,000 families are being fed. That's 6,000 people. So that has been a key thing. We're also suddenly needing to, go ahead.
Sorry, don't want to jump in there and interrupt you, but I've managed to pull up a couple of photos there. So there's a photo of Gilbert just on the screen.
I can't see them on my screen, Jason,
No,
but
you
I'll trust
can't
you. Yeah.
beside you there, but maybe as you're talking, I'll just share just a couple of photos of some of that, what
Please
we got in
do.
that initial purchase. Yeah.
That's great. So we did that, and we're now we've seen that the system works, and so we intend to do more. I can't give you. I hope to be able to give you more details by the end of the week, because tomorrow I'll be jumping on a live call with our team in Rwanda, which we won't be featuring here, and seeing what's the next stage for us. So we'll be looking at that. But we also have to remain focused on education. So as you heard from Emmanuel, we were involved in the project to build a whole curriculum of education for Rwanda. And we have had, and it took us 3 years alongside major partners. We were only a small part of the picture. Suddenly, within 4 weeks, that's had to be recreated and put on the radio. And so we've personally produced 51 lessons at Wellspring, but we've also, Libby has taken a lead role, in our country director, in coordinating other organizations. So there's hundreds of lessons flying through that are going to be put on the airways. And the reason why we pick radio, by the way, rather than TV or online, is because if you're in Rwanda, you don't probably have a TV or access to online unless you've got some cash, but you do have access, or many people have access to a radio, and for us it's about people in poverty. So that's a massive effort. But we've also got to think about what happens when the schools come back. And what are we all told every day to fight COVID? Wash your hands, sing happy birthday, 20 seconds. It's not so easy to do that when you don't have running water in your house or in your school. So one of the things we have to look at in all of those schools is what's the sanitation like. And we have to get fast working on that, along with our communities and our partners at the government. And so one of the things we're examining is what needs to happen in each one of those schools so that we can have sanitation stations. Those of you who've been to Rwanda will have seen, we have these little wash stations all across the schools. We may need to put 5 to 10 more in each school. We're examining that at the moment. That will be if we need to do that, we'll be using some of the funds that we raised during this time to do that. And, I don't know if you have a picture up there, Jason, but this morning I got a picture of my friends Seth and Alexi and David, who are drivers who work for Wellspring, who have been sitting back saying, how can we get involved? How can we help? How can we be part of this effort? And this morning we have seconded them, and they volunteered to do this, to work with the Rwanda government in COVID relief efforts. So we're taking 3 of our vehicles, 3 of our drivers, and they're going to be involved in the logistics, getting food to people, running some of the doctors around, whatever it takes in order to do that. So there's a lot of stuff going on at the moment. And at the end of it, schools will go back and we will surge our operations, because we've got to be there for those 200,000 kids. And there's going to be a real issue with dropout that we are going to have to face when kids have been out of school so long. So that's a lot of information, Jason. There's a lot more as well. But I wanted to just underline that we have these 2 things going on at the moment. We've got to be ready when those schools go back. But we've also got to care for people right now.
Yeah, there is that definite immediate need, right? Someone with a hungry tummy is not necessarily going to be able to focus, right? And so that's trying to balance that, right, is huge. And yeah, I was amazed at how quickly we were able to get involved and pivot and do that. It's great. We did have the picture of the drivers up there, Andy. I covered your face with it, but it was up there for people to see.
They're better looking than I am, so that's fine.
And one of the things, that I have appreciated about what Wellspring has done, and this goes up to the board level as well as leadership, is that no one from Wellspring has been laid off at this time. All of our team is still working, including those drivers who were then looking for something to do, right? And so eager to jump in and help out, has just been absolutely fantastic. So that is
Actually,
wonderful.
let me say something about that, Jason. One of the questions that gets asked at times, I think anybody who's a leader of an organization at a time like this is under a lot of pressure. I have friends who are leading businesses. I have friends who are leading churches. I have friends who are leading ministries, charities. Mums at home. We're all under a lot of pressure. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure that our team knew right on the first week was your job is okay. Especially in Rwanda, because no government's going to come riding in over there and say we'll pay 75% of your wages, or here's $2,000 if you're laid off. It's hard enough over here. There's no provision for that in Rwanda. So I felt it was a duty to say to everyone, look, you are not, we are going to say for the next 3 months, which at the time was the horizon we could look out to, everybody's job is safe. In Rwanda, it's expected that you employ some people in cleaning and cooks position to give employment to people. So we have cleaners and cooks who work to look after our team. We have drivers, and they're just as important to us. They're just as much of our team members as our country director. And we went to every one of them and said, you're going to be okay for these first 3 months. Our hope is we can go way beyond that first 3 months. We believe we can, but so much depends on what happens this week and in the weeks to come. But our team are everything. Our projects are our team. Our team are amazing, and we can't do it without them. So that's why we did that. We think it's important. Care for your people.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andy. And I mean, firsthand, I'm experiencing that, right? And our team here is very grateful for how we've been led through this. We just so appreciate the leadership. We do have a few questions, Andy, from people posting up on the live stream there. I'm going to jump to the second one first, actually. So it's the question was, in the midst of COVID-19, what does it look like to continue supporting the leaders, teachers, and parents that Wellspring works with?
That's a great question. So I want you to imagine, if you will, a country of 1,000 hills. Rwanda is called the land of 1,000 hills, very rural, mostly rural, actually. So there's a big city, Kigali, and a couple of smaller cities, but mostly a rural area. Very limited access, certainly with the people we work with, to the internet. I don't remember going into the home of anyone that's one of our parents and seeing a TV. There are TVs in Rwanda, but we work with very poor people. So staying home and saying, schools are going to be shut, so educate home, is a totally different deal in Rwanda from what it is. Imagine a mud brick house with maybe 2 rooms and 6 to 7 people living in it. Perhaps the grandparents there as well. So what that means is we have to give a whole different level of support. So first of all, for leaders who can't stream videos of them teachers, they can't, they're not going to be able to stream on Zoom to their kids in these villages. So the first thing for leaders is we have stayed in contact with every single leader of every single school, and normally deputies as well. So, and we've done that mostly by phone, actually, WhatsApp and phone. So all of our workers, all of our team members out there involved in our quality education program and community involvement programs have been connecting on a daily basis, going through a whole list with all of these leaders. That has been a big job because they've needed a lot of support. And we have been coaching them and helping them over the phone and WhatsApp, answering their questions and giving them some guidance. For parents, it's been even harder because they're out in the villages trying to figure out, how do we keep our kids socially isolated? Any of you who've been to Africa in an African village know it's a very communal place. Here in our lovely individualistic North American society, we hunker down. It's hard enough, but we can do it. We can watch Netflix. Try doing that in an African village. Can you imagine? So trying to give them advice on how to support their children during this time, especially in areas that have other, issues around, how the families work and everything. So what our team has done there is we have produced a small package, like a kind of a checklist, to give parents some advice. And actually, we're having that printed. We're also in negotiation with Radio Rwanda to have it broadcast, to have some interviews in terms of how to give advice to parents, how to get that information out. No one else is doing that at the moment. So we've also been in contact with some of the leaders in the communities. So a lot of it is being done by voice-to-voice contact on phones, and also by the distribution of literature so that people can say, this is how we're going to do it. Final thing, Jason, is we are preparing a surge of operations when we go back. And so one of the things we said we would love to see, and we're working with the government, we don't know if it's going to happen, is we're asking for a week's preparation in the schools with the teachers and the leaders, and actually with some of the community leaders and parents, before the schools open. Now, we know the government will just want to say, let's get back to work tomorrow. We get it. But it's not like coming back from the end of term here. There's going to need to be a lot of work done. So we will, if that happens, we will be intensively in there from day one. Whatever happens, we'll be intensively in there from day one. But we would really like to have the ability to work with those leaders and parents. And as soon as this lockdown is over, our team will be out there in the communities, in the school, working with people face to face.
That is fantastic, Andy. Yeah, thank you for answering that for us there. Now, you did touch on something that I know we spoke about at a team meeting. I think it was yesterday. So Louise Lowton, one of our staff out in Ontario, was living in Malawi for a number of years. And she was just mentioning, as we were talking about, and I think Amina touched on it in the video as well, 10,000 pounds of maize flour, right? And then the beans. And we were expecting that's 1,000 families, roughly 6 people in a family in Rwanda. So we got about 2 weeks, I think Amina had mentioned in there. But Louise brought up an interesting point, and I wondered if you want to expand on that just a little bit for us.
Sure. Yeah, so we took an estimate when we did that, and our estimate was that we could feed 1,000 with 10,000 kilograms of maize flour and 5.7 thousand kilograms of beans. We could feed 1,000 families. We could do it easily for 2 weeks. We actually think it would stretch a lot further than that, but we've targeted 2 weeks. We think it could go out for 3 weeks to a month. However, Louise brought up an interesting thing, having lived in Malawi, lived in Africa. And it's something that I have seen and experienced many times in Rwanda, and that is that this is a very communal society. You know, if one family has something, it is expected that they'll share. I've watched that on a number of occasions. My friend Laura tells a story about once leaving her favorite sweater or jumper on the floor on one of the trips and finding someone wearing it the next day. Because it's a communal sweater, it's been left, so it's obviously for all of us to use. So I think what will happen, what Louise thinks will happen as well, is that a lot of that food will be shared out to people who are hungry in the community. I don't think those families will be keeping it just themselves. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Don't you wish we did more of that in Canada?
It's so great.
I actually think during this crisis we are seeing more of that in Canada. I think it's one of the things that's coming out. I think it's a very godly thing as well. I think it's what we're called to do, to share. You know, Jesus talks about giving the shirt off your back, going the extra mile. So, So I think there'll be a lot more impact than we even, our figures show.
Yeah, that's such an open-handedness, right? That is, it's just great. We are together, right? Turikumwe.
Turikumwe. That's exactly the point of this. You know, we're calling it the Stay Home Gala, but its strapline name is Turikumwe. And Turikumwe is the Kenya-Rwandan word for we are together. It's a phrase our team uses all the time. We are together. And we're together at home, across the country now. We're together. I even know, because I've been getting some messages, that some of our Rwandan team have been streaming this in Rwanda. So we're together across the globe.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw Sylvain had commented on there and Elaine was there. So yeah, it's awesome. The technology, at such a time as this, the way that we can still be connected, obviously, and doing everything that we are doing, it's absolutely amazing. And kind of shifting gears from where we were with the last few questions, looking at food security, looking at COVID-19 and our responses there. We had a question from Blair, who we'll be hearing from actually in a little bit. But he's just asked, what called Wellspring to start in Rwanda in the first place? And that's going back, obviously, before your time.
So
but
it is going back before my time. But I am very aware of it because of the nature of how the organization started. So it came out of a request from our Rwandan brothers and sisters to a group of young Canadians that were actually there at the time, who had traveled to Rwanda. I think Jeff and Richard were mentioned earlier in Jerry and Shirley's video. So they had traveled there. Jeff's father was a pastor there. And the request was, there was such a desire for a school to be built, a good school. And this is in the aftermath. This is post-genocide, so this is about 10 years after the genocide. So at that time, Rwanda was still in recovery mode. Still is in many ways, but has come a long, long way. And so the request was for this school to be built within the context of post-genocide Rwanda, and the idea was that it would produce a new generation of leaders who would have a totally, a good set of values. And one of the things that people may not realize is that the education system was misused to really promote what happened in 1994. And in fact, if you look at a lot of the people that did the killings at the roadblocks, and it was the youth movement, the Interarmway at the time, that were used. And so education was really seen as a promoter of genocidal ideology. Not every educator, obviously, but it was pushed by that government at that time through the education system. So there was a desire for a totally different model. So we responded to that. Wellspring at the time responded to that. Richard and Jeff responded. Others came on board like Jerry and Shirley. And that school now exists. It's called the Wellspring Academy. We had one of my first jobs as CEO was the great joy of being at the ceremony where we handed it over to the Rwandan people. So we're still very engaged in that academy, but it's not ours anymore. And from that led a vision to see, well, if we could do it with, at the time 650 children, why can't we do this across the country? So first thing was, do we build another school? Well, actually, it's really hard to do that in Rwanda because there are not many places that could take a school at the level that the Academy's at. It's a very good school, teaches the Cambridge International Curriculum. But we realized there are thousands of dysfunctional schools across the country. Why don't we take some of the principles and put it involved in them? That's when I began to get involved through supporting some of the staff at the time, but then coming on the board and then eventually becoming CEO. And we have really expanded that program quite dramatically to the amount of schools we're in, the amount of children we work with, but also a huge amount of work at the governmental level. And actually, one of the last things we'll do on this live stream in a few days' time is I'm going to tell you about what the plans are for the next 4 years to expand that further. But that's why Rwanda's past called for a dramatic intervention, and this has been one. And it's been done very much at the request of our Rwandan brothers and sisters. And for those of you who don't realize, our team on the ground is almost all Rwandan. Libby, the wonderful Libby is British, but is married to a Rwandan. Everybody else, apart from one other person, is a Rwandan.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. That's definitely helpful for people as today, as we're trying to lay a foundation of who we are and what we're involved in and why we're so focused on quality education. It's great for those to get a bit of background there and how that worked. You mentioned something interesting. I was on that trip with you back in 2013, right, when we did the handover, and we do have a video on the YouTube channel if anyone wanted to go back and look. Samantha Kabago, the head girl at the time, we managed to record that. I think I did on DSLR, but there's a video there of her just sharing a pretty powerful time.
Great video.
Yeah, really wonderful. Andy, I don't have any other questions at this time, so I don't know if there's anything else maybe you would like to add or say in before we head to the next break here. But
I think it would be good for us to go into a break. People can get a bathroom break, get some lunch or whatever, wherever they are. But a couple of things I just want to say before we finish that. I think we're coming back. Well, you'll probably tell us what we're doing next, Jason. But I do want to say to people at this time that this is a unique time in our world and certainly in our generation. I'm asking myself, what is it that God's calling us to do? And one of the things that I have been saying to the team and feel very strongly is I want to know that when I look back on this in years to come, I did the best I could. When I heard that people were hungry, when I saw what was happening to children who weren't in food programs, when I thought about what's going on in those homes at the moment, that I didn't just sit back. I want to be able to say I was part of the solution, not part of the people protesting and saying open up the lockdown or whatever it might be. And so I just want to encourage people as they're watching this to think, okay, what's my part? And it might be nothing to do with Wellspring, okay, but what is your part? What is it that God's inviting you into at the moment? What is he saying to you? It's not just about action, but about our hearts as well. So I just wanted to say that. I'll probably say more about that as the week goes on, Jason, but I do believe that there are opportunities here, and not in that business sense, but that opportunity for self-reflection
and to sit there and think, what I do now has consequences even beyond the normal. So my challenge for all of us is to think through those two things. Number one, what is God inviting me into? Number two, what is it I can take part in so that I can look back and say, I was part of making a difference. I know friends who look back to the 1980s famine in Ethiopia and say, and feel good about what they did at that time because they took action. I want to make sure that I'm a person that takes action now, and I pray the same for all of us here.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. That's a great word. I saw a post a little while ago on social media talking about finally the church has left the building, and I know as believers, it's we so often tie up where we meet into that. But what is God calling us into? Right? We have an opportunity now to be connecting with people, whether that's neighbors or whoever else through the different channels that we have available to us while still maintaining physical distancing. But what does God have in store for us, right? How can we come alongside? I had a really small opportunity the other week. I had to go into town anyways, and I was asked to pick up groceries for a neighbor, and I did it. And I met a neighbor down at the bottom road on our property that I just didn't even know was there, an older gentleman. So just great. So there's all these different opportunities, and yeah, it's just it's really interesting. And we did get another question here, and that is, what does the response look like after the COVID-19 lockdown? How do you get kids back into school? With so many needs, how does education not get lost in the shuffle?
No, that's right. And I think that's the key question, actually, for me. I mean, responding right now, it's pretty obvious what we need to do. We need to get people fed. We need to get radio on the air. But what about September or June or whenever it is when it comes back? The current dropout rate in primary schools in Rwanda, according to government figures, about 6 out of 10 make it to the end of, graduate out of primary school to secondary school, or at least pass their exams. Our figures on the ground would say that's an interesting way of looking at it. But all I can say is this: that figure's going to get worse, because the areas we work in, it's really hard for some families to keep a kid in school. If you've got 4 kids, it's supposed to be free education, and it is free education, but at the same time, you're very poor, you've got to provide their uniforms, you've got to provide certain costs. So sometimes kids drop out because there's no other reason than the families can't afford it. What's going to happen after an economic crisis like this? So we have to surge. We have to surge our operations in the communities. Our work in education is a very holistic work. So we don't just work in schools with teachers and students and leaders. We work with parents, with communities, with economic organizations. So we have to surge our operations. We have to get into those communities. We have to make sure the schools are ready when the kids come back. We have to make sure sanitation is good for when the kids come back. We have to make sure the leaders and trainers and teachers are prepared and have their resources together for when the kids come back, because the kids are coming back. We have to be ready. So there is this need to pivot right now, so that when they're huddled around the radios listening to math lessons, they are not starving, because you can't teach math on an empty belly. And we need to stay focused on the future. And even beyond that, when they come back, we need to expand our programs. We have only just begun in Rwanda. We'll say more about this later on, but our aim is to touch 2 million kids by 2024. And so there's so much more to do, because they deserve the opportunities that we have here to break the cycles of poverty and to be treated with the same dignity, worth, and justice that every child in a school in Canada or the UK or wherever you're listening from is treated with. There is so much more to do.
Thanks, Andy. You're right. There is just so much more to do. Thanks for hopping on again. And I want to thank you, the viewers, for joining us and engaging with our work at this important time. We're going to jump into another short break here. We're coming back at around 12:15 Pacific, so 3:15 Eastern. We're going to dig a bit deeper into why quality education is so important on a global scale and in Rwanda. So thanks again, Andy, for hopping on the call there. And I guess you're not back on.
Thank you.
Are you back on later today? Maybe you're back on later today. I got to check the schedule, but good to hear from you.
I don't think I am.
No, you're not. Okay, good. So
I could be wrong.
I know we're with Louise after the break, so that's great. Thanks again, Andy. Thanks so much. All right. We'll see you guys back at
See everyone.
12:15. Welcome back. It is so great again for you to be joining us. We're jumping into a time now where we're going to take a look at one of our films. It's actually a past film that we've done called Why Quality Education. And I actually have my colleague Louise Loughton here, who's coming in from Burlington, Ontario. She's going to help set the context for everything that we're going to share this week. And we want to just take some time to share more about the why of our work. So it's great to have you here, Louise. I'm going to bring you up on the screen so people can see you. There we are. How are you doing today?
We are doing good here in Ontario. Of course, it is 3:15 out here for all you Ontarians watching. Just a big hi to you, and thanks for joining us, and to our friends and family in BC. I'm so glad that you're joining us today for some good talk about what's the point of education and why does it really matter. So that's what Jason and I are going to be talking about today.
That's right. That's totally awesome. So, yeah, I guess we can jump right in. Hey, so the first question for you, Louise, would be why education? Why is that important? And then specifically to our work, why Rwanda?
Yeah, I'm going to start with that why Rwanda question. And Andy did some good talking about that this morning. If you didn't catch, of course, you can go back and watch another time in the live stream later today. We're going to post it again so that this whole live stream just loops over the course of the afternoon and evening. But Andy talked about the roots of Wellspring and why Rwanda. And what I appreciate about this story is how rooted it is in real relationships. And you're going to hear me talk about relationships a bit more today because that's one of our core values at Wellspring. But two young men who grew up in Africa were in Rwanda and saw both an opportunity and a need and received an invitation. That's so important, I think, whenever we're moving into another culture or community, that it can't be our vision, but it has to be a shared vision, and there needs to be an invitation to partner with local folks in helping facilitate them to enact their vision. So Wellspring is 16 years old. We're a young organization that started with a private Christian school based on excellence and strong principles of educational practice. And we're happy to say now at this juncture in our Wellspring journey as an organization that the Wellspring Academy is standing on its own feet, led by Rwandan leadership, financially independent from us as an NGO, and doing some fantastic work in the city of Kigali with many children from not just middle and upper class families, but children from all over that city who get to go there and experience what quality education truly looks like and feels like. And so, to be honest, when the success of that educational experience was observed and experienced by local government officials within Rwanda, there was an invitation. Can you do more? Can you do more than just a private school? Can you replicate some of what you've done there in our public education system? And our answer to that call was yes. And for the last number of years, we've been invested in government-funded primary education in Rwanda in two main districts. And so that's some of the why Rwanda. It's relationship and invitation. Why education is something we're going to delve into and talk about and watch some great films about over the next half hour. But I do want to just read you something written by Dr. Emmanuel, one of our core staff members on our team. And he was a professor at a university in Rwanda, actually training teachers before he came to us. And there's a white paper available on our website, which you can go and find, that he wrote about the role of education in bringing healing. And that's not true in Rwanda only. It's true for all of us, that when we know ourselves and we come to know our community, and we're called to a vision to serve and develop and give our gifts away to others to make life better for not only ourselves, but those around us, healing comes. Healing comes. And so he writes in his white paper that the 1994 genocide of the Tutsis left a lot of wounds in the hearts of many Rwandans, especially the genocide survivors, and it tore at the social fabric of the Rwandan society, and it just tore that fabric into pieces. And he writes that education is the tool that can help to heal both personal and national trauma. And post-genocide educational policy within Rwanda targets that goal of, as Andy said, bringing worth and dignity and justice and respect, unity and reconciliation to individuals and communities and to the entire nation. And so that's one of the reasons why we're privileged to be able to support our Rwandan friends and leaders, teachers, in the enactment of an education, a values-based education, infused with Christian values, the love that Jesus demonstrates to each of us, and to support them in becoming more effective at engaging children's hearts and minds so they can be transformed and the nation can be transformed. And so we're going to watch a film about that right now. And this is a film that was created recently in Wellspring's history. And I just hope you'll stick with us. Stick with us for this film. It's about 6 minutes. And it covers a number of key things about why quality education is so important. And after that film's over, Jason and I are going to come back and we're going to unpack that with 3 questions and some answers. And we'll talk a little bit more about the impact of quality education globally, in Canada, and specifically what Wellspring is doing in Rwanda to bring quality education to the children and families and communities there. So stay tuned for this film, which Jason's going to pull up for us right now.
that film really explains why a focus on quality education across the globe is just so crucial. So crucial, right?
Yes.
So, Louise, as an educator, sorry, actually, I didn't want to jump into that just yet. I just had a message here from our team. They are going to post Dr. Emmanuel's white paper on our Twitter feed. So if you were to go to twitter.com/wellspringfdn, you should see that there. You'd be able to get a direct link to view that paper that Louise was quoting from earlier. Sorry. So the next question for you, Louise. As an educator, can you explore with us why quality education is important?
Sure, let's talk about that. And for most of you listening to us today, we've been the beneficiaries of an outstanding education system. And, I've been a teacher for 25 years. This is my 26th year. I'm not in the classroom this year. I'm getting to serve our Rwandan staff, and I just love being able to do that. But I tend to look at those students and I say, guys, you just don't know how good you got it with all the complaining that goes on about deadlines and extensions and what about, and this is too hard. And
Right.
we are just unbelievably privileged in Canada to have one of the best education systems in the world. And one of the reasons that we experience the quality of life that we do is because of that tremendous system that we have. But at the present time, over 262 million children around the world today are out of school. They are not anywhere near a classroom with that opportunity, even to achieve basic literacy. And 617 million of those who are in school, despite the fact that they're in a classroom, they lack that basic proficiency in math and in literacy, the two kind of strong pillars of good learning. And so quality education is important for them. And it's such an important thing that, countries around the world have gotten together and recognized this is important. Most of you will have heard of the Millennium Development Goals.
Right.
That countries from around the world got together at the turn of the millennium, the year 2000, and said, look, we've got to solve some critical problems in our world today. And one of those problems is education. And we need to get every child enrolled in free, universal primary education by the time our span here is done. And they gave themselves 15 years to accomplish that goal. And many other goals were aimed at also at that turn of the millennium. But the goal of quality of universal primary education is the one that was actually achieved by many countries around the world. And Rwanda is one of those countries. And it boasts anywhere from 88 to 98, depending on the statistical analysis that you do. But the Rwandan government says 98% of kids are enrolled in basic, free, universal primary education in that nation. And that is really quite amazing. In 2015, having celebrated that accomplishment, again, national leaders and NGOs, UNICEF, the United Nations said, it's good to have bums in seats, so to speak. And we'll talk about that Rwandan classroom, just how many bums are in those seats in every single classroom. They're large. But it's really not so great to be there if you're not learning anything. And one of the startling facts from the film you just watched with us is that in Rwanda, a child by the age of 12 might have had 6.6 years in a classroom, perhaps even in a classroom and then out for a bit and then back and then in.
Right.
But it's resulted in only 3.8 years of actual learning.
That's
so
huge,
I want
right?
you to look at your
that's
12-year-old
huge,
kid.
right?
Yeah,
It's
it's a
staggering.
significant gap.
Yeah, because that it's a really interesting point. Bums in seats, but if the education you're not getting is worth having, you can check a box to accomplish something, but not really fulfill it or not really do it well, right? And it's more than just checking a box. We want to make sure that what kids are getting is actually something worth having. And so then just sharing those stats, even for a variety of reasons, kids are in and out of school. So even when they are there, the little that they are getting, if we can make that as, I don't know, maybe if the word is as concentrated as I'm thinking of making juice where you get, you have juice from concentrate where, it could be as concentrated, but the higher quality, right? Make it something worth having for the time that we do have them. Is that, yeah. anyways.
Yes, you might have a child who finishes grade 6. And for those Canadians watching, the Rwandan system's a little bit different from ours in that you can think about it kind of in let's think 4 increments. So first there's early childhood education and nursery school. And in Rwanda, only 18% of age-eligible children are enrolled in ECE programs. And then primary school goes from 1 to 6. And then there's a key exam at the end of grade 6. And depending on your results in that exam, you may be selected to move onward to lower secondary, which is grade 7, 8, and 9. Or you may not be able to do that if you fail that exam. You're done. There's nowhere to go. So you might have a child, say they enter at the right age, which again, doesn't often happen. And we're going to talk about barriers to quality education tomorrow. So I won't steal tomorrow's learning from us today.
Good.
If a child enters at age 5 and continues until grade 6, so they're 11, 12 years old, let's use that age of 12 as the video did. You might have a child in grade 6 finishing that grade and yet not able to read and not able to do basic mathematics. So what is the point? Like, what are we doing? Children are being socialized. There's benefit, of course, to even a poor quality education, but the goal of Wellspring, the goal of the United Nations, the goal of the Rwandan government is to provide something of quality. And so the Sustainable Development Goals, which were enacted in 2015, and we gave ourselves another 15 years to achieve, one of those key goals is number 4, quality education. And so there was a move from everybody getting there to everybody staying there and actually learning something. And that's the journey of Wellspring with our teachers and leaders and parents in Rwanda. And before we get to just our next question, I just want to tell you some things about education and its actual impact in countries like Rwanda. Now, I'm going to read from a list, so forgive me if I just don't look right at the camera, but track with my words, if you would.
That's all right.
That education translates into a dramatic reduction of poverty. In sub-Saharan Africa, of which, Rwanda is not in that geographical area, but close in there, a reduction from 46 to 28% in poverty levels just by completing 6 years of education. 2/3 of the world's women are currently illiterate. That's not the right statistic. 2/3 of the illiterate people in the world today are women. So grasp that.
Right.
2/3 of all the people, the world's illiterate, are women. And if we could give women and girls an education, women and girls' earnings will increase by 10 to 20% with each additional school year that they complete. So imagine the impact that has on a nation and the economic health of a nation.
Yeah.
When its participants, just with 1 extra year of quality learning and successful completion of school, can raise their own income level by 10 to 20%. Other amazing statistics about how education affects girls: it reduces child marriage. So for every year of secondary education that a girl receives, the likelihood of her marrying young is reduced by 5%. Maternal death rates go down when mothers are educated because they seek out proper support. Child-infant mortality rates go down when women are educated because they know how to care for their child and make sure there's balanced nutrition and health care. We could go on and on with statistics. There's so many, Jason, about the benefits of quality education. But I think all of us can agree that we know from our own experience, because we're the beneficiaries of such a great system, that it releases us to be the best people that we can be. And that in turn has impact on an entire nation, doesn't it?
Totally. Yeah. And some of the things that you mentioned earlier about, I guess the gist of it, kind of how we take for granted what we have access to, right? And I don't know, as a parent, we homeschool, but our kids were in elementary school for the first few years, right? It's a struggle at times, even wanting to get them there, right? And obviously working for Wellspring for the length of time that I have, as I'm putting kids into the school system, I'm looking at some of the things that we are doing in classrooms and some of the training that we are working with teachers and leaders and parents. And I'm like, that would be powerful even here, just to get us back understanding the value of what we actually have here and what we have access to. Now, the next question is going to kind of looking at what does it actually look like in practice. But I just want to go back to you were just talking about teachers in the classroom, right? And just having bums in seats and all that kind of stuff. And I think this probably leads into this question a little bit as well. You know, I'm kind of rambling off on a tangent slightly, but one of the things that we tried to do with Wellspring Academy was to look at what model education could kind of look like. And Wellspring Academy is 2 classes for each grade, 25 kids in a classroom. So the ratio of teacher to student is really manageable. It's I think even better than what we have here. I think in BC, anyways, it's not that ratio is not right. And so, how I'm going to guess, the average number of kids in a classroom is somewhere between 70 and 80 in a typical Rwandan classroom. You've got one teacher there who's maybe not that excited to even be there, trying to, kids get left behind unless they're causing trouble, I'm guessing. So, what does quality education look like in practice when you're looking at, maybe I'm jumping around too much here, but looking at a specific classroom now, like, how are teachers equipped for that? How do we equip parents in that, so that every stakeholder within that school community is all striving towards that same goal of ensuring that kids are receiving an education that's worth having?
Yeah. And an education that develops their brain, that develops their character, and that develops their competencies, right?
Yeah.
We can talk about education being holistic in that regard. And one of the things I've always said as an educator, and why I stay in teaching and keep getting drawn back to it in many ways, is because as a teacher myself, the reason I love it is because I get to shape children's characters. And I work in the secondary system with adolescents. And it's a privilege to be able to shape their character, as well as develop competencies so that they can be contributing members of society. And what I am interested in as we continue to work in Rwanda, and our team there, whom Andy said, and you need to know, folks, that our team in Rwanda, they are not like white Canadian teachers like me heading over there to tell everybody what we know. This doesn't work that way in Wellspring, which is one of the reasons I love being here and doing what we do, is because it is Rwandan educators who are post-secondary trained, who've already accomplished the very thing we're trying to teach our teachers in the classroom themselves. So they are accomplished individuals, highly skilled, with deep character and a tremendous passion for what they do. And so,
so I'd add to that, Louise, too, which I don't know. I was editing clips of our Rwandan team, and Beatrice was just speaking about how I've been around with Wellspring for 12 years. She's not the only one. A lot of our staff have been there for over a decade, right? So I think that also speaks something to the culture of our team there, right? Yeah.
And you asked me quality education, so I've said character and competencies and other things, but I think that in Rwanda, and for us as Wellspring, and for you too, viewers, like if you're parents or students yourself, like transformation happens when we learn things that influence not just what we do, but the very people that we are. And so Wellspring's work in Rwanda with teachers and principals, vice principals, parents, community leaders, always brings that blend of skill development with character transformation in the context of healthy, vibrant relationships. That's what makes this thing magic. And so that is in part too what makes quality education. I could stand in front of a group of my grade 12 English students or philosophy students and tell them everything I think I know about the subject. But if they don't know that I care for them, that I value them, that I'm interested in what they think, that I want to know their struggles and come alongside to support them in that, then they are not going to flourish. And that is no different here than it is anywhere else in the world. And that's one of the core things that we try to cultivate in every one of the people that participate in our program, is that commitment to developing competencies and character in the context of relationship. And
that's
that is
huge, right?
for real learning, because that's where transformation happens. So
yeah, and people, if you guys are going to stick around later this evening, we're going to run a video where we're going to hear from our filmmaker, Jeff Heath, who's been filming for us over the last 8 years or so. And he actually shares a little tidbit in there about the very first film that he worked on for us. It was called Amani, A Reason to Sing. And there's a teacher in that classroom who shares the story of how he was changed as he was going through the program, through our school development program. And so that's exactly what you're talking about there, Louise. And so if you're interested, you could catch a glimpse of that tonight, 7 Pacific, I think 7:15 Pacific will be on and airing that. So yeah, cool. The next question I have here for you, Louise, was what part is Wellspring playing in the nation of Rwanda? And I know Andy touched a little bit on some of the immediate things going on because of COVID-19, but obviously our work under normal circumstances looks drastically different than what's happening right now. So maybe you could fill us in on that.
Sure. One of the things I liked about that video that we just watched together were the adjectives that describe quality education. Did you guys catch them, Jason? Did you catch them? I've watched the video. I had to watch it a couple times. I know you've watched it more than a couple times yourself, but that quality education is dynamic. That means it's responsive to whatever the needs are right in front of you. It's inclusive. That means everybody plays a part. It's not just about boys. It's also about bringing gender equity and empowering girls. It's not just about boys and girls who've had enough to eat. It's also about those who are struggling with hunger. It's not just about kids who can achieve the goals of learning and pass the test. It's about those who struggle. And we're going to hear a great story later today from Blair, one of our partners, as a student who struggles. It's about creating inclusive environments where every child belongs and every child is brought to that next step in their learning. If it isn't that, what is it? And so aside from bringing that environment of safety and empowerment to the classrooms in Rwanda, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more after this next clip we show you. Aside from cultivating places where it's safe to develop competencies and develop character and relationship, it's also about creating inclusive places where every child belongs and where every child can move to that next step. And you can imagine, like, how much money do we invest here in Canada just accomplishing that objective? I mean, we have so many supports in our public education system for kids on the margins for whatever reason. Even now in the COVID-19 situation, if a child is struggling, doesn't have technology, can't learn in the way that we all have to learn right now, there are so many supports. And so inclusivity is really key.
Interesting point, and I think you know this. My wife Cindy is an occupational therapist in our school district here, so exactly working with that particular community of students, right? And I do know that they are looking. The need is so much more than what they have resource for, but even what we do have here is so much more than what's available in Rwanda, right? And I know that this is something that we as a team at our last leadership retreat in the fall, that became one of the running themes, was this idea of inclusive education. If we're going to treat people with dignity and worth and respect and justice, that means everybody, no matter what. And so going back to the number of kids in a classroom and a teacher who's trying to manage 70 to 80 students, it can be something as simple as a kid can't see the class board, the chalkboard clearly because they've got a vision impairment. And going back to 2013, I mentioned this earlier when I was on the trip with Andy. There was a couple from Vernon there with us, and Matthias is an ophthalmologist, and he noticed right away there are some kids in this class who need to be moved up, and it was purely because he picked up on probably something going with vision. So that's a simple example, maybe. But there are so many other things that kids are dealing with. I think, I'm just thinking of my wife in the school system here with kids with ADHD or something like that. If it's not recognized or diagnosed properly, you just think you have potentially a problem child who, whatever, it's just hyper. And, how do you manage that in a classroom? Usually that can be violence, right? That can be anger outbursts. That can be, sending them out of the class or whatever, right? So it's really interesting that, even here, I think we realize the need and we don't do enough, but in Rwanda, it's drastically different. It's not even really happening for the most part, right? So
we would like, Jason, we have a little film coming up from a gentleman on our team. His name is Gilbert or Gilbert. Il parle le français, je pense, as his first language. But he's going to talk a little bit about Wellspring. And, it's great for us to talk about it, but he's on the ground. He's been with Wellspring for such a long time. Some of you have worked closely with him. Karen, if you're watching us today, then you'll look forward to this little section of Gilbert talking about Wellspring and what it means. And he's going to articulate that in some of his talking as you listen to him, because he's shot that from his phone. It's down below. You're not going to get a really, it's not a professional video. You got to bear with us. We're all just in our COVID-19 coping, but track with what he says, because it's really powerful, and it's so much nicer to hear it from the lips and mind of a man who owns it so deeply that he crosses rushing rivers, he climbs mountains, he walks through rainstorms, he does whatever he needs to do to get to every single teacher that he's coaching and mentoring. So I want you to listen for a few things. I want you to listen to the purpose behind why we do what we do. See if you can catch that in Gilbert's talking. I want you to listen for what I call the three-legged stool to successful education. And I'll come back to that after we've listened to Gilbert. And I also want you to listen to his heart for coaching and supporting the people that he is engaged with in creating quality education. So we'll turn it over to Gilbert for a little 2-minute word from him. What does Wellspring do, and what does it mean? Straight from the lips of the guy who's front lines and living that vision more than anybody else.
Good morning or good afternoon, friends in North America. I am Bisengo Gilbert from Wellspring Foundation for Education in Rwanda. I want to share with you briefly, why does Wellspring exist? In other words, I want to share with you our vision and mission. Our vision is to be a catalyst for transforming education in Africa and to foster vibrant communities that address poverty in all its forms. Our mission: we seek justice, worth, and dignity for all those we engage with, as we show the love of Christ by empowering new generation through the development of quality education in Africa. This is what we believe as an organization. We believe that every child has potential. We believe that every child deserves to be treated with dignity. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to strive. We believe that when children receive a quality Christian value-based education, lives are transformed and a new future is made possible. That's why the Wellspring Foundation for Education is committed to empowering those who lead, teach, and raise children with the tools to engage, to nurture, and inspire a new generation of servant leaders. Briefly, Wellspring exists to spark this change. Thank you.
Great to hear from Gilbert there. He really succinctly, I think, gets to the heart of it, right? Which is just fantastic. So, what is Wellspring's role, right?
Yeah.
If you unpack that three-pronged approach where we go leaders, teachers, parents.
Yeah. Like Gilbert said, right? We exist to spark change, to catalyze and facilitate change. And we're all responsible for our own growth and change. Nobody can change for us. But what Wellspring can do is create and cultivate the right conditions where people are willing to embrace the changes that need to happen. And so I talked about a three-legged stool, and it really is a comprehensive approach to change. And we're going to say this quickly. You've been with us now, tracking with us for quite some time. I'm actually timing it. So if you've tracked this whole thing, you've been with us for about 35 minutes already. So thank you for sticking with us for that long. But how does that change occur? And we're going to talk about 3 different groups of people. What I really appreciate about Wellspring is not just the quality training that we can provide for these 3 groups. And you've heard us say, Jason and I, the excellent quality of our trainers, both their skill sets and their character. But it's not just the training, and everybody is pulled out for intensive, high quality training. I believe that the real change comes in the context of mentoring relationships, in coaching. I mean, people spend thousands and thousands of dollars in our country today to get professional life coaching or leadership coaching. It's available for us in a whole bunch of areas of our life. This is Wellspring's nugget of gold, I think. This it's not just icing on the top of the cake. It's integral to the fabric of everything that we do. So when we work with these 3 groups of people in training, it's not just about information to be learned and gleaned. It is about, and how do I now make that part of my professional life? And you have a personal coach, basically, who walks with you for 2 to 4 years as you wrestle those things to the ground and experience true change. One of the groups that Wellspring works with are educational leaders. So Jason, you guys don't know, but I can't see Jason right now, so I'm just talking to the sky. But we're trying to have a dialogue, he and I. I can't see him. So Jason, you can interrupt like you've been doing and just add some things, because you've you know these folks by heart. So
For sure.
one of the things, groups of people that we work with are the leaders. And in our work in Gasabo, we started with teachers. We thought we want to improve life for children. So where should we start? We should start with teachers. We should train teachers. They're the best. They're the like frontline worker. And we did. And it was slow going in terms of change.
Yeah.
In Rubavu, we realized something, Jason, that we wanted to do differently, didn't we? What did we do differently in Rubavu? I'll ask you the question.
Yeah, for sure. We just
Put it on
realized
your
that
head.
if you affect a leader, the leader makes an impact on those who they are leading, right? And one of our modules looks at servant leadership, and that's coming from a Christian foundation. And when leaders are impacted, people that they are leading tend to be affected greater than if I think a lot of leaders, if someone else has learned something new and they're thriving and they're under that person's leadership and they haven't caught the vision for that yet, it becomes kind of risky for them. They feel like they're being challenged, or right. And so starting with leaders was huge for us in Rubavu.
Yeah.
Right.
And it accelerated the pace of the transformation.
Yeah.
So by investing in principals and vice principals in every single school in the Rubavu district, not one single school was left out, as well as the government regional leaders, starting with them in intensive training modules and things like servant leadership and team building, trust building, developing good management policies, working with parents. There's 6 different modules that they were pulled out with for intensive training and then back into their schools, but followed by a coach, followed by a Wellspring trainer who's experienced in education and in leadership, and just walks with those leaders as they figure out what this paradigm shift looks like for them.
Yeah.
So that's a huge, deep relational investment, both in skill development and paradigm shifting and new ways of thinking. And those of you who've experienced life coaching or leadership coaching, you know that it's in those moments where you can flesh out the ideas and troubleshoot individual problems in your school or with your staff or with this difficult teacher, or you wouldn't believe this parent. So that's the first of the legs on the 3-legged stool.
Okay.
And then the second leg on the 3-legged stool is, of course, those frontline workers, because teachers have the biggest impact on learning outcomes before anyone else. So they're with those kids every day. And so helping teachers to develop the skills that they need, many of whom did not receive extensive teacher training and very little professional development within their career, coming alongside them and also giving them the tools they need to be successful. Challenges that they face. Now, Jason, you've talked about those challenges. Like, can you imagine being in a classroom and having 60 grade twos. Lynn O'Neill, if you're listening, like this is your reality, grade twos, little primary kids, not 24 of them, but 60 of them in the morning. And then you have a 40-minute lunch break, and then you get 60 of them in the afternoon. How on earth do you cope with that, number one? What if you come with a migraine that day, or you haven't eaten, or you fought with your spouse, or how do you make the most of that opportunity?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
what I appreciate about the fact that our Wellspring trainers are Rwandans who understand the language and the culture and the really, significant struggles, they can actually coach those teachers to develop skill sets that are necessary to face that context.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure.
The way you teach 80 kids is different than the way you teach 20 kids. But there are effective strategies. There are things that you can do. There are ways that you can teach. You can still do group work. You can still ask open-ended questions. You can still have kids responding and using active learning and movement. You can still differentiate according to learning styles. If you have some visual learners and some auditory learners and some kinesthetic learners, educators out there, you'll know what I'm talking about. You can still do all those things. You can still create a safe environment where kids can put up their hand and get it wrong and not feel shamed, but feel encouraged and feel validated just for trying and risking and engaging. And that's what we get to do with our teachers, is help them to value their students, to love their students, to create safe, engaging classrooms where quality education can happen, despite the many, many barriers. And again, that's tomorrow's conversation.
Yeah. Thinking of teachers, we know in Rwanda that the teaching profession is not necessarily something that was that sought after, right? So you, in some cases, will have teachers in a classroom who are just coming there to do their job, right? And you touched on this earlier about the idea of character, and I think of, discipleship practice things, right? Where you don't want behavior modification, you want heart transformation, right? And that's what's happening as teachers are going through the program. They're starting to, just talking about loving their students and caring for their students. If they don't even want to be there, if they don't see purpose in what they're doing, they show up and they're there, and a lot of times, they're not even sure when they're being paid at different times. We've had those issues as we, in different districts when we've been there. And so, it's so exciting when a teacher catches the vision for the impact that they have in a life of this child that is going to change the course of their future because they are learning. And I think of Quentin, one of our coworkers, sharing the other day of his youngest daughter, Emma, learning to read and just sharing the joy. And that's a small glimpse of it. But all of a sudden, you are off in Narnia. You are learning about rabbits with swords and S.D. Smith writing, all of his books, The Green Ember. And that's just one small glimpse. But teachers that catch the vision for that and that joy that Quentin shared about seeing his daughter learning to read, teachers have the potential now in Rwanda to see that with the 60 kids in their classroom if they're willing, right? And they're being equipped and they see the value in that. So yeah, it's amazing. We've hit the 45-minute mark. I know we got one more leg of the stool to touch on, and then we have a video from Blair, right? So what is that last leg on that 3-prong approach?
Well, teachers are some of the lowest paid public servants in Rwanda. And parents know that, teachers know that. It's very demotivating. One of the ways to help teachers to engage in their work is first to cast that vision and have them own it, and then have them to be supported to be successful. But the other part of the vision is they need partners in that. They need strong leaders who are equipping and empowering and supporting them, but they need parents to come alongside them in the education of their children. And that's the third leg of the stool. And one of the things that Andy talked about this morning, I think it was you actually, Jason, Wellspring's work with parents is to call them up and call them out to their responsibility and their opportunity to really invest in their own kids and the kids in their community. Not to wait for that government handout to come along and fix the school and fix the leaky roof and we need sanitation. But what Wellspring says is, hey, you're right, it is the government's responsibility to do all this infrastructure improvement and whatnot. But here we are right now in our community. What do you think is the most significant problem we need to address in our schools? They identify it, and then we just help facilitate them solving that problem. We don't solve the problem for them. We facilitate them identifying the problem, identifying the assets, abilities, competencies, resources that the community has, and then supporting them as they solve the problem.
And that's, huge, right?
It's unbelievable what we see, right, Jason? Like
Yeah.
gardens planted, teacher salary top-ups, girls' hygiene rooms, food programs, like goats being given to like you, and it's all locally developed solutions. It's not even solutions from Wellspring.
It's
who are already Rwandans.
yeah, we
solutions.
typically do not do anything material, right? We're coming in to train, but one of the most powerful tools, and we see this in the parent communities that we're working with, is this asset-based community development, right? And we are getting more into that at some point, I think. So I don't want to go totally down that road. But Cormac Russell, kind of the world lead in asset-based community development from Scotland, he has come and trained our team multiple times. And now I know Rachel Mahuku is really passionate about this as well. What do you have in your hand, right? If there's a problem at the school, how can we solve it? So Sarah and I were at a school a few years ago in Gasabo where they had people coming onto the campus and trying to sell marijuana to students. And the parents saw this issue and they identified it. So all of a sudden it was like, hey, well, I'm a builder and I have access to this. And they end up putting a fence around the school, and that stuff happened. A local solution to a problem because of some of the training. So it's really powerful to see. And we have lots of stories of what.
So many.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Powerful stories. Yeah. So that's Wellspring's investment in quality education. We empower leaders to see themselves as servants, team builders, trust builders, and to lead out of character and competency. We help teachers to develop safe and engaging classrooms, and we help them to, develop the tools in their toolbox so they can be more effective educators. And we catalyze parents getting on board and investing whatever they can in improving the environment for learning for their kids. And it's a human capital enterprise. Right? We don't build buildings and we don't have all these things. We are investing in our people. So if you join us in partnering in Wellspring financially, you are investing in our Wellspring training team, who are investing in 75 schools, 150 leaders, thousands of teachers, and parents and communities. It is a human capital investment to improve the quality of life for Rwandan people in wherever we serve. So it's a real opportunity, and just encourage you, if anything we've said, even if you just jumped in for 5 minutes, because we've been going now for a bit, we're real passionate about this stuff. If you've just jumped in even for the last 5 minutes, just know that when you invest with Wellspring, you're investing in quality people who are trying to build character and competency through relationships of integrity with the people we serve. And again, I'm going to go back to that relationship thing, and we're going to hear right now from a new partner who's been with.
Actually, jump in for one sec. Right? Sorry, Louise. I was just thinking, and you're obviously, I think you're quite popular. We have 30. It looks like 30 viewers, and that's the most I think we've had today. So, including the CEO being on a couple of times. So,
must be on downstairs.
There you go. We had a question from earlier that we were going to jump into, and that was looking at, I think it was from Ben Keller, and we just didn't get a chance to jump into it with Andy. I think we just missed it in the thing. But it was, how can people be praying for us? Not only our Canadian team, but our Rwandan team, so our Wellspring team. In what ways could they be praying for us right now? And I thought it segued nice from what you were just talking about, and I'm forgetting how I was making that connection. But obviously, it's huge for us, right? We are investing in people. You mentioned earlier about Gilbert crossing rivers, hiking up mountains, taking four-wheel drives to different places. Jeff had talked about that. I think he'll talk about it in his video later as well, right? People are going the extra mile. We are, Andy talked earlier about our drivers. How do we get involved now to do things like we have trucks? We can take food to the different places. So what are some of the prayer needs for us, and how could people be praying for us? I think we could probably tag team this a bit, but
let's do that.
Yeah, for sure. So I know for our North American team, many of our team don't work remotely. Louise and I work remotely. Sharon works remotely. Andy will do it at times. And so it's a practical thing of like just not looking at screens all the time and being able to disconnect and move away from. And the problem is, I think we're doing a lot of our entertainment, a lot of our social time, because we're trying to connect with others and we can't be present. We're also doing that over screens and stuff like that. So I think just helping us to rest and to recalibrate. Pray for that we would be able to find times to do that and still be connecting and investing in other people in those different ways, but not always with the screen. I think that's been something that's come up in our daily check-in times for sure.
And I imagine any of you watching, you must be feeling that that's not particular to our team, you know?
Right. Yeah,
You want
for
to
sure.
do after being on a screen is get on a screen and try and connect with somebody. That's how I feel too. So that's thoughtful, Jason, and really insightful, and certainly true for us. I don't want to speak for our Rwandan team, but I just imagine yourself in a job like theirs where, and some of you are in a job like theirs because you're in the people care business. You're facilitating, you're training, you're coaching, you're counseling, you're leading, and you spend your time investing in other people's well-being through coaching and through listening and through training. And so I just imagine being in their shoes and adding onto that the strain of being separated from your family because perhaps they're in Kigali and you're in Rubavu, who's 2.5 hours away. Add on to that, and this is not even during COVID time, but add on to that any constraints you have in perhaps finding food or daily having to get and cook, and things might take longer to do, and managing children and expectations. And then you have family needs that of a community way over in another part of the country, and you're earning a good wage and you're wanting to invest in that extended family. I can just imagine that they must feel pulled many times. And so if you're thinking of them and praying for them, I would just pray that they would have the discipline to settle themselves. We call that in Canada, right? Self-care, wellness. That they would have wisdom in the moment as they're coaching teachers and leaders and maybe feeling tired and drained, to have the self-control they need to be the positive presence that they want to be every single day. And they're working long hours. So pray for their social, emotional well-being. Pray that they would have times of laughter. Pray that they would have really good insight to help each individual they work with. Pray that they could embody those values of Wellspring to bring the love of Jesus and his ability to see each individual for who they are, and to honor them and to give them dignity and treat them with worth. Pray that they would have full enough, buckets or whatever that they could.
Yeah. For sure. I think that's huge for all of us. I mean, there are practical things, but that's probably the biggest part. You talk about that investment in human, you didn't say human capital. Did you say human capital? I can't remember exactly what you had said, but there's that part, and it's our people. Wellspring is the people, and praying for us and that care for us would be huge. Obviously, there's some really practical things just happening. I think of Libby trying to lead with a couple of young boys at home. Also, we're trying to get all the lessons on the radio and the process of making that happen. We're trying to get food distributed. We're looking at, there's the potential of doing more in that too. And then our Rwandan team, and I think I'll end here with this, but our Rwandan team also are having to work from home. And that's just different for them, right? And so, yeah. I think most importantly, though, is that self-care part, that they would feel close to God, and that they'd have a peace, and they'd be able to persevere in light of everything that's going on, because it's just different, right? Cool. So you were introing Blair, I believe, right?
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you to Ben. Thanks for throwing that question out there. I'm not sure if you're still with us, but we got that question. We want to respond and want to encourage everybody just to be engaging in whatever way you can. If you jump on Instagram, leave a comment, check out on Twitter. We want to be responsive to you. We're going to say that over and over because we actually mean it. It's a core value for us that we do this in the context of relationship. And I'm going to turn now to a partner moment from our friend Blair, who's new to the Wellspring family as a partner, and he's going to talk a little bit about his educational experience, and maybe it'll resonate with some of you. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to just wrap that up in only like 3 minutes or less. So don't miss this next partner video that we're going to throw up there, and you can hear from Blair, and then we'll finish off. So in about 6 minutes, this segment will be done. So turn it over to Blair. Jason, let's hear what he has to say about what it was like for him to be a student here in Canada.
Hi, everybody. My name is Blair Malfera, and I am a youth pastor on the east side of Canada. So hi, whoever might be watching on the West Coast or anywhere else for that matter, I've just been asked by Wellspring to talk a little bit about why I decided to come alongside them and support them via donations and really just share my experience with what drew me in. So obviously Wellspring is about education, and specifically in Rwanda. And my history with education goes all the way back to grade 1 to 8 specifically. And I actually have a learning disability. And in grade 5, I discovered this. So at first, education was really, really difficult. But when I got to high school, it still stayed difficult. But what changed was my teachers. And my teachers were great in 1 to 8, but I found teachers who really loved me, who valued me, and who wanted me to reach my potential. That's key right there, is they wanted me to reach my potential. And so Miss Sebastian and Miss Hobbs said, Blair, you are fantastic, and you are more than the grade you put out. We think you're great, and we want you to reach all your goals in life. And so let's get you some strategies because you've got a learning disability. I wouldn't have gained confidence. I wouldn't have gained the ability to graduate without these two women who came alongside me and said, you have some potential. Let's go get it. And so they showed me strategies to get through my disability. They showed me this and that. And then it got me to college and then university, where I met Calvin Townsend at Trinity Western University. And he did the exact same thing for me. Came alongside of me and said, Blair, you matter. And I want you to get that B+ so that you can go to seminary one day, and I'm going to help you exposit the word, and I think you're great. And so from both high school, and then I had college, right? And then I went to university, but high school and college, I had these 3 phenomenal teachers who saw my potential as worth going after, and then they did it through the means of education. I wouldn't have had these wonderful influencers if it wasn't for learning education at all. They just wouldn't have been in my life. If I dropped out of high school, I wouldn't have met Calvin Townsend. And if I didn't get that push from Miss Sebastian and Miss Hobbs in high school to get through my disability and learn and develop strategies, I wouldn't even be here. And so that's why Wellspring matters, because I think I have a story just like so many other kids all over the world. And if we don't partner with people like Wellspring, we don't give kids in Rwanda a chance to experience the same thing. So if you're thinking about donating today, just think there are some kids who deserve to reach their God-given potential, which is what Wellspring's all about. And I think Wellspring is the best way to do it. So consider that, and I hope to talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
So great. Blair, you're bang on. Shout out to Mrs. Sebastian, Miss Hobbs, and Mr. Townsend for investing in that life. And look at the young man that he is now as a youth pastor, influencing perhaps hundreds and thousands of kids. And so he is right, and I just echo what Blair said. No child in Rwanda is any less deserving of actualizing that potential than any child in Canada. We firmly believe that every child has equal value, worth, and dignity in the eyes of God, in the eyes of us. Not one of them should be overlooked. And that is what drives us. That's what fuels our passion, is that we want every child to know they are loved and valued and to reach that God-given potential. And so it's our joy to just encourage you to join us in that journey. Like, come on board with us, get involved. There's exciting things that are going on in Rwanda through Wellspring, and you can be a part of it. And you can be a part of it in a whole bunch of different ways. Number one, I'm just going to be right bold through the front door here. We want you to jump on board financially with us. We want you to get behind this vision and empower our Rwandan staff to continue doing what they're doing over the long haul. And we want them to be continually secure in those positions that they have, as Andy talked about this morning. Their jobs are secure at the moment. They know that. Our CEO has assured them of that. We want to continue to tell them that you do not need to worry. This vision that we own is owned by your friends in Canada. So come on board and own that vision and give us a gift of your finances. And we know that we are asking at a time when it might be super hard. And we are not tone deaf to that reality. So some of you are watching might be feeling like, are you kidding me? They're asking for money and like, now I don't have anything. I've lost my job. But yeah, we are. We are asking ourselves, and we are asking all of us, with whatever resources we have to set aside a portion to share and invest in the well-being of others. And the Bible talks about the widow's mite. That could be the penny that you have today, even though it might have been $100 a month ago. You might say, I just don't have that, but I've got this. And our invitation to you today is to experience the kind of transformation that God does in our lives when we pour out ourselves on behalf of others. So jump on board with us. Help empower those Rwandan staff members to keep doing the work that they're doing, both now in COVID-19 response and over the long haul as they invest in the teams of people that are providing quality education for kids. But that's not the only way. If you are intrigued by our work, jump on board with us. Every year we take a team of people to see it firsthand. Some you're going to hear from some partners later, and even you already heard from one who's been 13 times, and that 13 times is strategic investment every single time. It's not tourism. It's how can I see the front lines of what's happening? So jump on board of one of our vision trips, and even today, contribute to the storytelling that we're trying to do. We're trying to break through the noise of social media that it's busy and clogged for all of us, but we want to bring you some hopeful stories. And so even today, you can jump on Instagram or Facebook and tell us your own education stories. You just heard Blair's education story. What's yours? Did you have a powerful moment when a teacher or a colleague or a mentor changed your life? Share that story with us. Share how your quality education has impacted you, and come join the storytelling adventure with us. You can do that through our events. We have a lake to lake ride happening in the fall. We got all kinds of things that are always happening that if you can give your own time and skills to, we'd love to have you be part of the family. So we're really looking forward to this next 4 days. Well, we got 3 more days. We're not done today. We're going to have some guests come up shortly just to talk a little bit about silent auction and give you an update on our fundraising so far. But stay tuned over the next 4 days. It's going to be some really fun and creative things, and you don't want to miss it. Even if you're jumping in and out, watch the live stream later. We're just happy to be here with you and to share the exciting things that are happening in Rwanda. So bless you as you go about your day. Jason, that's it for me. And we will see you all tomorrow, where we'll come back and talk about barriers to quality education. Perhaps be a little bit shorter than we were today, but
that's okay. Thank you so much, Louise. It was great to have you here and sharing that, especially from the perspective of an educator. It's absolutely just awesome. So thanks so much. I'm going to let you go. I've got to bring some other people onto the call here. So thanks again, and we'll be talking to you soon. Yeah. All right. So before we wrap up today, we've just got a couple of other things happening. So I have to call up a couple other coworkers, a few more actually. I'm going to bring them onto this call here. But first of all, tonight at 7:15 Pacific time, 10:15 Eastern, just to get BC viewers the time to step outside at 7 and make some noise for our frontline workers, we are going to be giving you a unique opportunity to meet our filmmaker, Jeff Heath, and he is going to talk about his experiences over the last 8 years. I'm going to mute Skype there for a second. Sorry. He's going to talk about his experience walking with us over the last 8 years, visiting and filming in Rwanda. So he's put together about a 12 to 15 minute film where he explains his passion for Wellspring's work. It's really powerful. We touched on it a little bit, saying, where Jeff was talking about the first film he made for us called Amani, A Reason to Sing. And he shares a little bit about seeing a teacher impacted in that. And so that's on tonight at 7:15 Pacific time. If you are in BC, you can hop out and wave at all the frontline workers and make some noise for them, and then hop back onto the live stream at 7:15 to hear from Jeff. Secondly, I am going to be now bringing up some colleagues. We have Kelly and Christy. I have not turned on their mics yet, but they are here, and this actually went smoother than I was thinking it would because we needed everybody on Skype at the same time. And Barb as well is going to join us for the last few moments, and we're just going to get some updates on the progress at our silent auction and the marketplace, and they want to hear how our fundraising efforts are going as well. It's been an absolutely fantastic day. So I am going to unmute Skype, and we are bringing on, there is Christy, and there is Kelly, there's 1, 2, 3 of us all across the screen. Yeah, that's great. I think I had a little nameplate pop up for you guys somewhere. I don't know where I've lost it. So let me see. I know why, because I'm on the call. Let's jump to this one. Boom. It's just Christy, and now there is Kelly. All right, ladies, what do you have for us?
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jason. We are so excited. Kelly and I are on the public engagement team here at Wellspring, and over the last few months, we have been gathering items for our silent auction. It has been a labor of love as we've worked with our partners and sponsors, and they have been so generous, especially during this time. And we want to thank them for their generosity, and we want to thank all of you who have been involved so far. We're so excited for seeing people bidding and the activity that's been on there so far. And if you haven't taken a look yet, we encourage you to do so at wellspringgala.ca. It's a way for us to join together and have some fun while we're raising funds for Wellspring. And so, yeah, give it a try if you've never tried it before. We are here to help you. And so feel free to reach out if you're having problems getting started. But yeah, it's been going great so far. And Kelly, I'm curious, do you have a silent auction update for us? Where are we at so far?
I do. Yeah, I'm super excited to tell you guys that we've raised over $9,000 so far.
Wow.
Through our silent auction alone. So I think the total at the moment is 9,308, but that just keeps going up.
Cool.
Yeah, and there's still days of bidding to come, right? So we're just going to watch it climb, and we'll be here to update you guys as it goes. And we just want to encourage you to bid high and bid often if you see something you like, because all of the proceeds from the silent auction are going to Wellspring's work to ensure that kids are getting access to their quality education during COVID. So yeah, don't be shy, get on there and push some of those up.
Sweet. So there are some things as well. It's a silent auction and marketplace, right? So it's kind of like, it's not that it's a buy it now, but it's kind of like a buy it now. So if you do see something, we only have so many of some of those things. And I think I have some of the giraffes here at my house because I forgot to bring them down the last time I was down. But there's only 3, right? So if you see something that you like and it's on the marketplace, you got to jump on it because it's going to get bought up and then we just don't have any more, right?
Yep, yeah. And some of those are one of a kind as well.
That's true. That's true. Cool.
We also, sorry, Jason, we have a few items in our silent auction that we wanted to tell you guys about. One of the first ones is our Whistler package. So this is a sealed bid item. And Kelly, can you unpack that a bit more for us?
Absolutely. So with our Whistler package is a vacation package that we have on there. And like Christy said, it's our only sealed bid item. So you actually don't get to see what other people bid. So if you want this, if you're excited about this and you really want to go spend a couple nights in Whistler, go in with your best bid. It's kind of like they explained it to us is it's like when you're buying a house, you don't know what other people are giving. So you just give it your best offer. So this includes a 2-night stay in Whistler at a private condo that sleeps up to 8 people. So there's 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and I've recently been told apparently a sauna in the basement. It also includes 2 passes to Scandinav Spa's world famous Scandinavian baths, as well as 2 passes to Zip Trek Eco Tours. It's for their bear tour. It's up to 3 hours of zip lines. 5 zip lines are included, as well as some treetop bridges. So it would be a super fun weekend.
That sounds amazing.
Sauna. All right. There's a sauna in the basement.
And I was, you know what? I was probably muted for that part. I helped myself back on, but I was muted. So I was just telling the ladies, I have Finnish friends, and I think they say sauna. Yeah. So sorry if that was missed on the stream. That's why I'm repeating myself. Yeah. Cool.
And Christy, what else is there?
So yeah, as Jason mentioned, we have both a silent auction and a buy it now section. And in both of those sections, we actually have some beautiful agaseki baskets. We have some wooden baskets as well as some grass baskets. The wooden baskets are actually truly a rare find. These are hand carved. This is a hand carved set that we have, and it contains 2 baskets. And I actually brought one home last time I was in Rwanda, and I love it. I love the significance of it. I love how rare it is. Super hard to find online, but we brought a few back with us from Rwanda that we'd love to share with you. We also have a grass set, so they're kind of like a stacking set where they fit inside of each other, which is really neat, and a few individual baskets in our Buy It Now section. And these handcrafted baskets have actually, they've been a part of the Rwandan culture for centuries. You can see them being carried on the heads of women when they're going to market, bringing produce, or maybe coming back from market with purchases. They store food. They're part of the daily life and rhythm and community of Rwanda. And Agasaki actually means love and peace. And they symbolize the women coming together to provide for the needs of their families. And we also discovered that they're often used to hold gifts to be given at wedding ceremonies. And so they're just such an integral, enmeshed part of the culture there, and just a beautiful thing to see as you're driving by, and something to hold on to. So we'd love to see some bids on these items. They're great gift ideas if you're thinking of something unique to give to someone. And they're just a great item to have. Kelly, do you have anything else for us?
Yeah, so I'm supposed to talk about the Creative Live Creators Pass, which I almost don't want to tell you about because I'm currently the winning bid. And I'm so excited about this. This is such an awesome thing for anyone who's stuck at home and wants to take on a new project or learn something new. Many of you maybe haven't heard of Creative Live, but essentially it's like a hub for learning anything creative. The Creators Pass is a 1-year subscription to over 1,500 amazing online courses. And you can learn anything from photography and cake decorating, graphic design to audio engineering. They also have business courses, financial management courses, leadership courses, and they're all taught by industry experts and all done at your own pace. So if you're at home and you're just kind of getting antsy and wanting something to do, this is an awesome, awesome, awesome item. I personally have taken some of Creative Live's photography courses and have learned so much. So whether you're a beginner in any of these topics, or you're just looking to expand a skill set, it's a really cool thing to do and a way to fill some downtime while we're all stuck at home. So Christy, a lot of these items are like physical items, and since we're not having a gala this year where we can just like hand them out at the end of the night, how's that going to work?
Yes. So for both the silent auction and the Buy It Now items, all arrangements will be made after our Stay Home Gala. And so if you've purchased something already, we are aware and we are holding that item for you. If you've purchased a pass, tickets, or gift card or gift certificate, those will either be emailed to you or sent by letter mail. And for the larger physical items, we'll contact you the week after Gala to arrange for shipping. And shipping costs are additional. They're on top of your bid. And so that's just something to make a note of as you're bidding. If you live in the Greater Vancouver area, there will be a contactless pickup option at our Wellspring office here in Langley. And there are a few items that are local in the Okanagan as well as in Ontario. And so just be sure when you are looking at the item that you read all the information so that you know where it's coming from. I think that's about it. Anything from you, Kelly?
I just want to say if you have any questions, don't hesitate. Put something in our little live chat. Somebody will respond. You can send an email to either Christy or myself, Christy@thewellspringfoundation.org or Kelly@thewellspringfoundation.org. We're happy to answer any questions about the silent auction. And if you actually don't see anything on there that you really want, though there's so many amazing items, I would find that strange. You can always still be a part of this by just donating. And I think the link's probably at the bottom. You can hop on there and partner with us in that way as well.
Cool. Yeah. So I've just got a scroller going across the bottom of the screen to direct people to the Stay Home Gala page. And when you're on that page, you scroll down just a little bit below the where the live stream link is, and you'll see a green bar that will take you off. There's a button there that will take you off to the silent auction. So wonderful. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, it's really great. Thanks so much. I am saying bye to you, and I have Barb next. So we'll look forward to hearing from you guys tomorrow again. Is that right? You're going to keep updating us every day. Wonderful. Excellent. Okay, see you guys later. I'm jumping across to Barb, and one sec. There we go. Hello, Barb. How are you doing?
Fine. I'm seeing Christy, but that's okay.
That is okay. So Christy's not on the screen for the live feed, but she was still part of that Skype call. So now she's gone. So the way the technology works, we have to kind of jump around a little bit here, but that's good.
No problem. We're all in our own space, so this is great.
That's awesome. So, how are things going with finances?
Well, as you heard, the silent auction is doing amazing. And so far, we have brought in just over 11,000 in donations, which of course that will be doubled with the matching. So that with the doubling of the 11,000 and the silent auction total of 9,308, we are currently sitting at $31,326.
Wow.
So we really only used just over 10% of the matching, but there's lots more to match for the silent auction, or pardon me, for giving. And we're just looking to see how each of us feels led to take advantage of this matching grant that we have.
Yeah, to have partners so generously offer to do this, it is huge. And so essentially a total of $100,000, and up to that essentially your gift is doubled, right? Which is just huge. So yeah, it's such a blessing to have that. And we have an overall target of about $250,000 that we're shooting for. So I think today's been a great start. So I'm guessing you are coming back each day to give us an update towards the end of each day. Is that right? Yeah, good.
I believe so, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's exciting to keep updating the spreadsheet and just to see how people are led and are giving. So thank you.
It's so good. All right. Well, I will say bye for now, Barb. Thank you so much.
Okay.
We are wrapping up for the day. So it's good to see you, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon. Bye, Barb. Great. So thanks to Barb and Kelly and Christy for that update. It is just really wonderful to see the response that has happened so far, not just only on our silent auction in the marketplace, but also how people have responded to giving. It's huge. And as we've mentioned, we do have a matching grant up to $100,000. Your gift doubles dollar for dollar, thanks to some partners, some generous partners who are offering that grant to us. We have an overall target of $250,000 that we would love to hit by the end of Saturday. And so we're going into a break now, a pretty long break. We're back at 7:15, where we are going to hear from our filmmaker, Jeff Heath, filmmaker, photographer. We're going to get an inside look at the work that he's done. He's going to share about the impact that Wellspring's had in his life and what he's learned about us over those past 8 years. So it's a really candid film. It's quite moving, actually. I listened to it and I was like, wow, this is just gold. So you do not want to miss that. So that's 7:15 BC time, 10:15 in the East, in the Ontario area. And that just leaves us some time. I know Shauna, one of our coworkers who you would have met at the beginning of our live stream today, she lives in Port Moody, and I know her and some of her neighbors hang out the window and clap for the first responders, frontline workers. So yeah, wonderful. So we are going to see you back in about, I'm trying to do the math right now, 5 and a bit hours. I'll get a timer. Anyways, it's about 5 hours and a bit. So 7:15 Pacific time. We'll see you again. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great day.